present this evening, present to transact the business of the school board. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Racine.
Here.
Buffalo. Here. Martin.
Present.
Paulson.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Here.
Oh.
We will begin today's meeting with a... Oh, sorry.
I know I'm still freshly new, but yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Chair, I have a point of order before we start.
Point of order is called for a rules violation or procedural violation. What is your point of order?
Procedural violation.
What is your violation?
The violation is that we, as a board, have not completed our non-negotiable number 2, 2004 evaluation, self-evaluation. And the non-negotiable says we will not operate without a self-evaluation. I'm recommending to keep the process going that we set aside the non-negotiable number 2, and I will make that motion in a minute, so that we can get that done, and then we can also move forward with today's agenda. The motion I'm making is to set aside the board's non-negotiable number 2 for 40 days to allow the 2004 self-evaluation to be completed in accordance with the board policy AFA.
Is there a second? The motion dies. There is not a second.
And then we are still in violation of our own policy.
Noted. We will begin today's meeting with agenda item 2.01, Norview High School project update. Dr. White, it's just the way it's written. Dr. White, I will turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Chair DeCalagero, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the board, and our community and staff. Today we will receive an update on the new Norview High School. As you are aware, Mr. James Yasek, Vice President of MVP, has been contracted by Norfolk Public Schools to lead the process with this collaborative effort. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Yasek to the podium to provide the update, and I think he will be introducing some co-presenters as well.
Thank you, Dr. White. Appreciate the introduction. So Jim Yatsik with MVP, and as Dr. White mentioned, we're working as Norfolk Public Schools as a project manager, owner's representative for the new Norview High School. Very excited to be here tonight to talk to you about the schematic design and the progress that we've made to date. So what we'll be presenting, just want to note that this is a bit of a snapshot in time. We still do have quite a bit of design work to go. There's more stakeholder meetings that need to be held. There's one more community engagement meeting that's planned for this project. So this is really just a progress update of where things currently stand with the Norview High School design. So advance to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I wanted to spend just a little bit of time recapping some of the recent history of this project. And what you're looking at here is the organizational structure, contract structure for the projects that we have right now. So the project is a joint venture with the City of Norfolk and Norfolk Public School Board. They have a joint contract with Heartland. Heartland is the developer that is designing and building the facility. So you see Heartland in the middle of the chart there, and then under Heartland is a series of design consultants, contractors that are working with them as part of that team. So Heartland is currently in an interim agreement with both the city and Norfolk Public Schools to deliver 35% plans. So we're in the middle of that process right now. We're actually nearing the end of that process. We've completed our schematic designs. We have one more design phase that's left of that interim agreement, and that's a design development phase. After the conclusion of design development, that's when Heartland will give us a what's known as a guaranteed maximum price That will be their statement of the maximum amount that the project will cost. It will cost either under that amount or up to that amount. So we're waiting for that proposal at the end of this upcoming next final phase, the design development phase. So if all goes well, the city and schools agree with that GMP, then the city schools would enter into a comprehensive agreement with Heartland to finish the design and then move into the construction phase of the project. So our big goal and milestone that we've been concentrating on for this project is the fall school year 2028 to 2029. That's what we have all set our sights on for the opening of the new Morey High School. Next slide, please. Again, a little bit of a recap here, and I know that the history towards reconstructing Morey goes much further back than 2022 into the teens when some work was done. Additional community meetings were held, and an educational specification was developed for the new Morey. But this picks it up in 2022 when Heartland, through the PPEA statute in Virginia, this is a statute that allows private developers and public entities to join forces and deliver projects such as new schools. So Heartland, through this PPEA process, submitted a PPEA proposal, and then the school system followed its guidelines. They invited competing proposals, didn't actually get competing proposals, held our first community meeting back in June, and then after that, last July, Norfolk Public Schools, along with the city of Norfolk, voted to enter into this interim agreement with Heartland, and that's basically where we've been since we launched in the design process shortly thereafter. I had a large series of design meetings with the administrative operational stakeholders with the school system, also had a lot of great collaboration with the city of Norfolk. They had a number of key attendees work with us in those meetings. Worked through the programming process, worked through a conceptual design process, and takes us really to where we are today, is at the end of schematic design process, ready to move into our final phase of the interim agreement, which is design development. Next slide. So upcoming milestones, I mentioned the design development, GMP. Following that would be comprehensive agreement, and of course we have a third community engagement meeting that we want to do. We've gotten very good feedback from the meetings that were held in June of 2024, and then more recently, January 2025 was the last meeting that was held. Next slide. And a couple points for decision making. Looking for approval to move from that schematic design to the design development stage. And this next one has to do with the historic designation for Morey. We know there's a non-historic section of Morey, and the plan that everyone has seen involves demolishing the non-historic part. The plan has always been for the historic part of Morey, the four-story part of Morey to remain, of course. But in order to get the delineation between non-historic and historic, we need to go through a process, and this PIF acronym for the preliminary information form is what starts that process. So next slide. So at this time, I'm going to invite Robert Hudson and Mel Price to join me. Robert, of course, is with Heartland, the developer, and Mel is the lead architect that's been working with WPA on this project to get into a little more details with the schematic design.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. I'm Mel Price with WPA and representing our broader team, which of course is Heartland Construction, Norfolk Public Schools, the City of Norfolk, our partners at VMDO, and many, many more. We wanted to start off tonight, before we go through the full site plan and exterior elevations, really to talk about the piece of the program that we're still working on resolving. As Jim just said, there's 3 phases to design: schematic design, design development, and construction documents. And we're just coming to the end of the first phase. And so we understand that we've received a lot of feedback from community members, parents, and teachers about concern over the Ghent School and how all of the pieces on the site are moving around. I think we have an updated slideshow that's on the school board website. But what we wanted to point out here is that there's some really important pieces to this. What we've heard from parents and teachers is that there are some site amenities, the learning cottages or mobile classrooms that are on the north side of the Ghent School. There's a basketball court highly used by the middle schoolers, and then there are 2 playgrounds, one for the upper school and one for the lower school. In addition, there just needs to be room for the kids to run around and for kids who are staying after school at daycare to have space to move around. And so we understand that there are conflicts that are not fully figured out between the design of the new Maury High School and the Ghent School. And what we hope is that we will have the opportunity to continue to work with Norfolk Public Schools, with the parents, with the faculty, so that we can get this right. We have some ideas, we're not fully there yet without some additional conversation. My clicker may not be, I might have to say next slide if that's okay. So we're gonna zoom out and look at the whole site and then come back to that if you have any questions. So next slide. So I'd like to start just by orienting everyone. Thank you, so many of our school board members have come out to the community meetings, but if you've not been able to make it, I just want to start from the beginning. So in the foreground is the historic Maury High School, and what you'll notice in this picture is the big rectangle in the front is really the most historic portion. That lower portion in the back that heads north on the plan is the non-historic portion of Maury High School. So you see the Ghent School on the right, and all of the associated playing fields. Go to the next slide. I'll try and move quickly, and then we can just come back for any questions. So now we're looking straight down in plan, and I'm gonna take my time here and just walk through each thing. So if you can see the numbers, labeled number 1, and Robert, I might ask you to help me point somewhere, just to help orient. Number 1 is our historic Maury High School. And so you can see here in plan that the non-historic portion has been removed to give us some room on the site. Number 3 is the new Maury High School. And so we've proposed that that building runs east-west along 20th Street and then returning down along Llewellyn. Just on center with the new school, just behind it, and 6 is the multi-purpose playing field, and right now that's proposed to also have to be a turf field. There's parking just to the west of that, and if you see a long skinny bar come out, that's actually a covered bus canopy. That's where students will arrive. They'll go in under that covered canopy into the front door of the school, which is situated in what the community might refer to as the back of the school. Number 7 there are the tennis courts, 6 tennis courts, and we've heard from parents and tennis coaches. The most important thing there is that they're close to the restrooms, and we can assure you that's where they're placed. Just below that to the south is the softball field, and then kind of wrapping through that, you can see dense plantings. Those are rain gardens and bioswales, and that allows us to handle our stormwater on site and also create a beautiful amenity to give back to the community. So if you happen to live in the neighborhood, you can walk those trails. The students can learn about ecology and environmental stewardship. And then as we cross over to the east side of Llewellyn, you can see some dashed yellow lines, and those are raised crosswalks that are very purposefully elevated at sidewalk level. After school, students from Maury who might be playing on those playing fields will have to cross Llewellyn, and we want to make sure those are designed to be as safe as possible. Those will have flashing lights. There's actually a new City of Norfolk standard for those, the safest pedestrian crossings that we can get along Llewellyn. Number 5 is our baseball field. 10 is a multi-purpose field, soccer field. 12, of course, is the Ghent School. And then number 9 is the natatorium, or the swimming pool. And that's meant to be a shared use. Let's go to the next slide. We can go into some more detail on parking. Okay, so a couple of aerial views. Now we're flying up in the air. This is a bird's eye view looking from the south to the north. So you can see 21st Street in the background, and you can see the entire Maury and Ghent School complex as a whole. Next slide, we'll flip and look back from the north. So imagine hovering above 21st Street, then looking back towards downtown, and so you then see the new school in the foreground. We've had so many questions about parking, and so if you go to the next slide, what we'd like to show you here is we've tried to take the site and organize it just a little bit better than it is today in terms of parking. So even though we're keeping the historic building, we have a new school coming in, we're able to add 40 additional parking spaces. We're also able to keep the drop-off for the buses off of Debris and Washington Park. So we have a new bus loop, which should help folks who live in the community with the backups that occur with the combination of parent pickup and drop-off, as well as the buses. And then when the buses move off-site during the day, we have 40 visitor spots right near the main entrance to the school. So in total, 360 parking spaces, plus those extra 42 visitor spaces, and we've got 40 additional parking spaces that should help with congestion. One thing to point out very clearly here, again, the front door to the school is right there. So the address for the new school will be Washington Park. 20th Street does not have an entrance to the school, although it's designed to have a front entrance presence for the community. Next slide. Let's see. Oops, that's okay. This slide really just speaks to site security. And we had a lot of questions from the community about, this is a tight urban campus, playing fields are on a busy street. We want to make sure that we have athletic fencing and netting to make sure that both athletes and students and vehicles driving down the street are safe. So we have site security plans in how we provide fencing and walls, the brick plinths and the historic fences that are on the site. We won't go too much further into this other than we've been coordinating closely with the fire marshal, city planning, and police, and so we have emergency vehicle access that will take you all the way around the school. And so what is an outdoor classroom and walking paths also happens to double as a way for the fire engines to get through the site in case of an emergency. Okay, so we're going to look at renderings of the Norview High School. Remember, these are designs in progress. You're seeing renderings done for the public meeting, which I think was just about 3.5 weeks ago. We're further along now, and we've made changes at the request of the Architecture Review Board. So these will continue to change as we speak to more people and we hear your input. Okay, first thing is the building program. The school board in Norfolk Public Schools provided us with an educational spec, and our duty was to meet the specifications that you approved. And so we're here with the adjusted building program. We had just series of meeting after meeting, both with Norfolk Public Schools staff and City of Norfolk staff, until we were able to get this to a place where everyone felt comfortable. And the thing that makes us really proud is that we've designed a very efficient building that allows us to have additional square footage per student. So because everything stacks, every student gets just a little bit of extra space. So we've exceeded the educational specifications in that way. And then we're going to look at the plans, but a little bit tilted, so in an axonometric view, just so you get a general sense of how the plans flow. This is the ground floor, which is an important, not just for the students and teachers, but for the community. And so to the right-hand side of the page, along Llewellyn, is the athletics wing. We have a triple court gym and all of the associated athletics. To the top of the page in purple is our arts wing, and so we have performing arts. In addition to parents and students coming to that space, we may have community members coming in to see a performance. And then in the center, just to the right of the front door, is the cafeteria, and that space could also double for public meetings and events like this. There's breakout spaces as well. Up to the second floor plan, next slide. You can see that many of the spaces on the first floor are double height. They're large rooms. You want them to have tall ceilings. And so you can see how many of those spaces are double height. We have additional office suites and athletic suites on the second floor. As we move up, next slide, to the third floor, the third and fourth floors are nearly identical, and the classroom wing along 20th Street breaks down into 3 different learning communities. And so each of those can operate in a unit, and we design schools that way so that kids can have that smaller sense of belonging that helps them to have success in schools. It also provides flexibility. So classrooms are clustered together. There's space to expand and move. There's STEM learning environments. And so we have 3 learning communities with a stair that takes them up to the 4th floor. And so they can move up and down. Those are double height spaces. So you see the next floor. Perfect. And all of that has clerestory lighting to get natural sunlight deep into those spaces, which is really great for student learning. Okay, design, exterior elevations. Next slide. Speaking with community members and the Architecture Review Board, it was really important to design a school that was inspired by the historic Maury, but didn't mimic it. And so the architectural team took a look at this, and the same way you diagram a sentence, you can diagram out a building. And we looked at the rhythm and symmetry and proportion of this building, and look to borrow cues from the past to bring into our current building. Excuse me. Next slide. And next slide. And okay, so this is a view from the south, looking at the front entrance where the kids are coming in under the bus canopy. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ms. Tanner. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And looking out over the multi-use field, what you notice here is that there's a track around the field, and that's meant for PE classes. All PE for Maury High School has been designed to occur on this side of the site, the athletics wing there to the right. And then next slide. Just another view from the back of the field looking just on center, and you can see the symmetry and how that's been borrowed from the historic building. Next. A view now at ground level, looking at the canopy, the playing field, and then the covered bus loop entry. And next slide. Just a little closer up view. I'm so sorry. And what we've started to take a look at here is ways to incorporate symbolism and things that are special to Maury, some of the iconography, into the way that we handle sun shading on the south side of the building. So we want to do that to be bird friendly, and we also want to do that to build school pride. Next, just another view, and you can see the walking track there. And we'll keep going. Next slide. And one more. This is the tennis complex, and doors to the restrooms and locker rooms just on the other side. Next slide. Here's a view looking north up Llewellyn, and this is important because for anyone who lives in the neighborhood, this is going to start to change the character of the street. And so when you think about Llewellyn, 2 lanes either way with the berm in the middle, the athletic complex and then the arts complex will really front that street. Next slide. And its neighbor across the street is the natatorium, and so those 2 buildings are designed to really speak to each other. Next. A view towards the corner of 20th. That's a science lab, STEM classroom that you see projecting out. Next slide. We're looking back now from kind of the 21st Street area back, and we can just keep going. And keep on going. Good. This is important. If you watch the City Council presentation, you'll know that we were requested to make some changes to this facade, and that's all in the works. Really important, this is an arts terrace. This is not an entry to the school. And so the request was that we bring some of the design of the student entrance, what the community would call the back of the building, to the front of the building. So next time we come before you and these plans evolve, you'll see a little bit different building articulation here. Next. This is important, especially to Norfolk Public Schools facilities staff. because just between the post office and Maury High School is where all of the loading and unloading, trash and recycling, transformers, everything that the community doesn't want to see is actually tucked down an entrance between the fence of the post office and the school. And then there's a carve out in the building. We've got garage doors that can roll down, and all of that is buttoned up and tidy so that the faculty, the parents, the students, and the community, no one has to see that. We can button it up and give facilities everything that they need. Next slide. And then we'll move across the street to the natatorium. And this has been intentionally designed across the street on the corner to really present itself as a shared use community building. And in discussion so far with Norfolk Public Schools in the city, the thought has been that this could be a building for the Maury High School swimmers, as well as swimmers from throughout Norfolk Public Schools. And then when not in use by Norfolk Public Schools, it could be a place for City of Norfolk recreation leagues to come and swim. And so we've been careful to design for both of those uses. And if you have questions about that, we can get into more detail on that. It seats between 200 and 250 spectators, and there's space out back for all of the cookouts and things that happen that support those swim meets. Next. And you just saw what it looks like, and the natatorium and school have been designed really in partnership with each other. Next slide. Smaller one-story building, really just tucked into the landscape at this corner. And we'll skip ahead and just wanted to report out to you on our community engagement. So you've likely seen our community engagement reports where we've recorded all of the comments that the public has left us. We had about 150 attendees at the first community meeting and about 145 at the second one. So we've had a good turnout. Next slide. And we just want to remind anyone watching that there are over 30 different civic leagues and neighborhoods served by Maury. And so Norfolk Public Schools and the city have reached out to every single community individually to invite people out to the public meeting, and there's also been transportation provided for folks who live a little further away and needed a ride. Next slide. And our work in community engagement is really just the most recent of the meetings because Norfolk Public Schools, we recognize, started this process many, many years ago. So we build on your good work. And we do have, as many future opportunities for community engagement really as you need us to have. What we have upcoming on the agenda is the Ghent Task Force, and then the Architectural Review Board hearing. That will shift as we wait for approval on the schematic design. And then when Norfolk Public Schools is ready, we'll do our next community-wide meeting. So thank you. Robert?
All right, thank you, Mel. So let's talk about schedule and next steps. So next slide, please. Okay, so this bar chart, we've presented this before in the community engagement meetings and we continue to update it. But just for a point of reference, the vertical dashed line you see, that's that point we're at right now. So as Jim mentioned in the beginning, we're transitioning from schematic design into design development. As you move further across the page, you'll see a star right there that says established GMP. That is the bookend of the interim agreement. And moving forward from that, below the horizontal shaded line is where we would transition into the comprehensive agreement. And from then on out, that chart takes you through the rest of the project. So that's the first line represents completing the design and the permitting for the project. And then you go on to the phasing, which we have some slides here shortly, which will discuss the phasing, the proposed phasing as it is now. We do have a couple stars to note, and if everything goes according to the current plan, the athletic fields complex, that star represents that being complete in time for the school year beginning in 2026, with the overall project being complete for the school year fall of 2028. So next slide, please. Okay, so the next couple slides, and I'm not going to go into all of the detail on this because it's a lot of information, but this is what we mentioned in the beginning. And so the historic boundary is an important next step to this process. And as we talked about at the beginning of the presentation, there are portions of existing Maury High School that are non-historic and need to be selectively demolished to accompany the new amenities for the new high school. So in short, this slide is a good place to show that. So basically, it's the eligibility of the Virginia Landmark Register to determine its historic boundaries. Next slide, please. Yep. Okay, so there's a lot of information on here, but the one thing that I wanted to note is that beginning this process, and we can't begin this process without the permission of ownership, and that's a very important piece of this. But once this process begins, a couple things that it does not do. It does not restrict a property owner's control of the property, and it does not obligate the property owner to take a particular action, including listing on the NRHP. So in summary, it's a tool to obtain information, which helps us create those options. Next slide, please. Again, lots of information, but it's part of your package and you can read through it, but the bold part is the important part. And that determination is vital to allowing the construction, site planning, and permitting related to the new school to proceed with clarity and accuracy. And that basically outlines determining what exact boundary that is between what's considered historic and non-historic portions. So again, a very vital piece of completing the design of this project. And that last bullet point there that's in bold, the completion of this process, it increases the flexibility of how that historic building can be utilized. So again, I encourage you to read through those slides. It's a lot of information, but it's a very important next step to the process. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are going to talk about phasing. So this slide right here represents the existing conditions, and as we noted earlier on, Mel mentioned it, we want to be friends, accommodate our friends over at the Ghent School and make sure that we get these amenities relocated so that they do not miss the opportunity to use them during this project. And so before any of the construction starts, those accommodations would need to be made before we move on with the actual construction of the facilities. Next slide, thank you. Okay, so phase one. On this slide right here, what you'll see is some heavy dashed red lines. If I had a laser pointer, I'd show you, but basically these heavy dashed red lines represent boundaries. And so these are security fences, silt fences, it's the construction boundary. And the idea with the way this is set up is the priority, in addition to starting the new high school, one of the first priorities is getting the new athletic amenities built and operational for use by Maury High School. That way they can be used while the remainder of the high school is still under construction. So you see here, this is representing phase one. And if you could go to the next slide, please. Yep. And so from here, now those athletic amenities are complete. The items have been relocated for Ghent School prior to starting that phase. And now the construction boundaries have reduced to just the natatorium and then the new high school. So this is the bulk of the project where the new high school is being constructed. Next phase, please, or next slide. So once the new high school is constructed and we're able to move into that new high school, now you can see where the boundaries have adjusted once again. And this is where we're highlighting the non-historic portions that need to be demolished and the field right there in the middle. That's the boundary where we're able to complete that demolition and complete the rest of that work. And then last slide, please, last phase. And so phase four, this is kind of unknown at this point. That's a part of that historic boundary process, but essentially we're just showing that at this point in time, all of the work associated with the new high school has been completed, and whatever the future fate of historic Maury is represented by this phase. So I believe the last slide is questions. So it's a lot of information to go through, but we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for sharing the Maury project update, and I'd like to open the floor for any questions from board members. Chair recognizes Ms. Moore Buffalo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this on? No?
Doesn't sound like it.
Oh, okay. Can you all hear me? Yes, okay. Do you know, or could you share with the board, what is the square footage in front of Ghent where you're proposing to move the classrooms, basketball court, and playground?
I do not have the exact square footage of that at this.
Do you know approximately how many acres?
Yeah, yeah.
No, we do not have that part,
Okay.
We can get
but we
that.
can absolutely get that and get it to you.
Ms. Moore, do you mind if I? Virginia Department of Education recommends 5 acres for an elementary school. We have met with parents who have estimated that to be less than 2 acres of open space. So what do we do about that? What are your suggestions?
I could try. So we had a chance actually to take a tour both of the inside and exterior of the facility yesterday with Norfolk Public Schools staff and with the vice principal. And what we discussed yesterday was relocating the basketball court to the south side of the school, moving both playgrounds. We're keeping the one existing lower school playground, moving the upper school playground also to the south side of the school, and then laying that out so that we could have our separation required by VDOE. What we've heard is that that's probably not enough room with the number of students to provide that free room to run around, and that's a concern. What we've also heard is that Norfolk Public Schools is looking to decommission the learning cottages and move those uses inside the school. And so a key question that needs to be answered while we're looking at space is, do those need to be relocated? Are they, will they be moved into the school? We understand there's a plan to do that over the summer. I think we need a little bit of time just to finish talking that through and planning it out.
Ms. Massey?
Go ahead, Jim. Do you want
Yeah,
to add?
were you through with your, okay. So along those same lines, so yesterday you had the opportunity to tour Ghent, is what
Yes.
I'm assuming, Ghent facilities. And was that the first time that you were out at Ghent for that in-person, on-site tour of the school?
We've walked the exterior many, many times throughout this process, but that was the first time we've gone in the school and understood how the spaces lay out internally.
Okay.
And there's a relationship between the inside and the outside spaces. So.
Yeah, of course. Which is, I guess, moving forward, whatever barrier there was or existed, that may have prohibited access to the school or whatever, that is something that I'd like to see addressed. And I don't think that's not toward you, but toward the administration, if there was, because that did, community engagement is really important to this board, and I know important to you all in this process, and important to the buy-in of not only the work around Maury, but this is part of our big educational planning process. And Maury is not the only school that we're going to be building, renovating, designing. And so I think it's how we work through this is critically important. And so along those lines, you talk about the 3 phases, the schematic design phase, the design development phase, and the construction phase,
Yes,
right?
construction documents.
Okay, construction documents, okay. So what does it mean for us? Like, you're looking for us to take a vote on the schematic designs. And so what does that essentially mean? If what I think I hear you saying is that there is still some flexibility to address the concerns that have been raised by the Ghent community. So what does that mean? Like, are we, if you can expand on that?
I think generally what we're looking for, we know there's going to be changes, so we're not looking for the board to state that you're 100% in agreement with everything you've seen, because we know there's further changes forthcoming, and I think we all have a clear understanding that we need to look at Ghent further and make sure there's consensus and agreement. So we can go forward into design development with that mission and with that understanding,
Okay.
that we need to take that action.
Okay, and for example, because I need to hear, because, to be honest, me as an individual board member, and I am not fully prepared to vote on the schematic design that is currently presented, because I need to fully understand what it is that we're voting on and what that means moving forward. So some of the concerns are, the acreage that kids can play. And if you're saying right now it's at 1.8, but we want it to be 5, does that next phase still allow us to get to that without, even if the board votes in support of these designs, does it still allow us the opportunity to expand the acreage where kids can still have, suitable area to play and to do extracurricular activities and other things?
It does. So in the schematic design phase, we're looking at things like, there's so many parts to this, right? Are the classrooms in the right location? Is the building massing correct? And so when we get to the end of schematic design, we want to know that people generally feel like the school's the right size, it's in the right place, we have all the puzzle pieces there that need to be there. They can still shift around. Our contract takes us through a portion of design development, so we would be saying, yes, continue designing until you get these things right. If you thought that the building was in the wrong place or wrong shape, then we would need to go back through some schematic design steps. But if it looks like things are generally, placed correctly, then we need that next phase of design to work out all of these details. And any agreements that need to be made between the two schools as well.
Okay, and for instance, the fence on the back, that's a big concern, that it's right up against the building.
Do you want a fence? Do you not want a fence eventually? Do you want an opening? Do you want gates? These are all questions that have to be asked.
And then the location of that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So that is something that it can still be
100%.
negotiated. Okay.
Yes.
All right, and then, so the other piece is the cost. So I think that's the big elephant in the room that we're not fully addressing. And so, the longer this has taken from the time that we started talking about this to where we are today, I know there is, I think up to 65 million more that it currently stands at, right? So how are those discussions going to take place? Because that will inevitably, these designs are beautiful, and they're pie-in-the-sky designs, and without funding, are we going to be able to do, follow these designs? How are we going to navigate that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So there is, as we approach the end of schematic design, Heartland Construction is providing an updated budget breakdown. And then with the vote to move forward with design development, we transition into getting to that guaranteed maximum price. And so in that phase is where we're working with our trade partners and with our design team to make sure that the design is not getting ahead of the budget or vice versa. And so that's our job as a developer, to make sure that we're following all the parameters, that we're making sure the design does not exceed the budget that we've provided. So that's part of this last design development phase, to come to you all with a guaranteed maximum price.
Okay.
That's in line with the design that you've seen.
Okay.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions, but I'll let others ask.
Dr. Martin?
My concern, I know that we asked a lot of you on fitting all these amenities on a very small campus. One of my concerns is the historic building and that remaining and the use of that, considering that everything's so tucked in and tight, and so I was wondering if you had any conversations about what the plans for that building is. Again, I've heard there's been some talk about it being a apartment building and things like that, and I'm just really concerned about what that portion's going to be, that close, how that's going to operate, who's going to be there, being that close to our students.
Yeah. So, good question. Thank you for asking. And so, at this point in time, the future of that facility is still unknown. But what we have done is, knowing that it will be something else, whatever that is, on our site plans, we've made sure to make separate parking lots, some fencing, some clear lines of separation between whatever that future use is going to be. That way, it keeps the high school and students separate from that. So we've taken that into consideration on the design, especially on the site layout and those boundaries.
Mr. Pumples.
Oh, thank you. When you started this project, were you advised that the trailers would stay or move, that are outside the Ghent school? Because that's part of your decision-making, is where the location of those trailers are, correct?
Right, so in some of our early programming meetings, there was options for both. Both options were taken and
Okay.
considered, so we had plans to work either way.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Ng?
Yes, I did have a question. Okay, so to make sure I'm understanding, you're coming to the board today with a design. As my colleague acknowledged, it is a pie in the sky. It could change. And we need to make a decision so we can move down the road, because we've kicked this can down the road. We went from 185 to now we could be up to maybe 200 million. We don't even know if the city can incur that debt or more, or 240. So, so you'll be giving us a guaranteed maximum price, telling us what's the maximum you'll be, and then when we talk with our partners at the city, if that city cannot incur that amount of debt, and then we as the school board say that that's not something that we want to do as well in collaboration with the city, then you will be able to come back with different designs that will address and have different price tags. Is that correct?
That's correct. Part of this process is making sure that we also provide some alternative paths to, if the budget is not sustainable,
Correct.
At where it's at, that would be on us to come back to you with some options to get to where you need to be.
Okay.
Once that amount is known.
Got it. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Ms. Basine? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get you next.
Yeah, so back to the portable questions. That was also one of my, another question that I had. So our ultimate goal is to not have portables at any of our school sites. And so I guess to that question, like, is that also going to be taken into account in future design?
So when we toured the site yesterday, we looked at the learning cottages, portable classrooms that were put in place in the 1990s. It's difficult to move them from that era. They're not in great shape, but they're serving a really important purpose for kids and parents. And so what we understand that Norfolk Public Schools is doing is looking at ways to incorporate those into the school, build acoustically separated walls to make sure all of those things can be accommodated, and that no child will go without any of those amenities. And the thought is that that would happen over the summer. We looked at specifically where the walls could tie into the structural columns to bring those walls all the way up for that reason.
Okay, so has that decision been made to do that?
That's not our call to make,
Okay.
but we understand that's the current thought, and
Okay.
so it sounds like we need to fully talk through all of the really important issues around Ghent School amenities, and so we would look to Norfolk Public Schools to provide us direction.
Okay, because the model used within that school of shared space and all that is different than what we have in some of our other classrooms.
Open
And then
classrooms.
the open classroom model. And to piggyback on something Dr. Martin raised, so the commitment around the historic Maury building, so you're saying the future of that facility is still in question. What if it, I know there are concerns in the community about it sitting empty, and that it's just going to disintegrate, and that is obviously valuable space that could be used for
Community center.
a community center. It could be used for a variety of things, including field space that is taking up Ghent space right now. What is the time frame for getting an understanding around that? Is there one? Is there, something from the city, like any sort of commitment?
That's an excellent question. So I think the first important thing is to get through that PIF process, which we highlighted.
Okay.
Because until we have ownership approval to move through that process, we've made some assumptions of what we think the historic boundary, so to speak, the historic footprint, probably is a better way to put it, is. So we actually we've made some assumptions, but we need to go through that process. That's the next key step before some decisions can be made about what are the options for that historic portion. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, that does, thank you.
And if you want, I can show you exactly where that boundary is if you'd like to see that, if we go back a couple slides.
Okay.
It's the first PIF slide. Right, keep going.
47.
47. There we go, 47. One more. So we have historic preservationists on our team. One more up. The image in the bottom right, all the different colors are the different eras in time when additions were added onto the original school. So you can see it's just been infilled over time. And our historic preservation team has told us they believe that Department of Historic Resources and National Park Service will tell us that the original rectangle plus that blue piece, which is the historic auxiliary gym, will be determined to need to stay. But we're relying on our consultants, and what we need is to be able to send that letter to the Department of Historic Resources to have them confirm that. Because all of our work, you can see how tightly these puzzle pieces fit. We need that official determination ultimately to protect anyone spending time or investing in this project.
Dr. Martin?
She got mine.
Okay, Mr.
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just, I want to make sure I understood and confirm. You've only been able to go into the Ghent School one time, is that correct?
We have, yes.
Okay, but you've toured the outside of the facility multiple times,
Of
correct?
course.
Okay, and so, and the Ghent residents' families, they've expressed their concerns to you about where the mobile labs, and where the basketball and the playgrounds are going.
Yes.
And you've presented a new rendering of that, but you do not know what the square footage that you're taking from the kids in the original spot and then putting it in front of the school. You can't give what that square footage is?
What we've done is we've taken the survey of the exact outline of the playground for the upper school and the lower school. So we've placed them on the site plan. So what we've studied is taking the space that's there and then putting the pieces around. So what we had heard is we don't want to lose any amenities. So our first thought, we wanted to try to put a plan out there and then get feedback. And so what we know is we can fit all of those amenities on this site. What we haven't done yet is a calculation for the remaining area for kids to just run and play. And we're getting new feedback every day. So we'd like to go back and do that calculation for you and have some of those conversations and come back as we move through the next phase of design, because this is part of the design process. It's iterative. So we know we can't accommodate everything, but parents or students may want things in different places, and they may need just a little bit more room. So we need some time to figure that out and move it around.
Okay, and Madam Chair, so you're removing the spaces from where our children already are currently playing and enjoying. We're moving it to the front of the school. We have not measured to ensure it's the same amount of adequate space. Well, y'all have not measured.
We've measured every amenity. So the new basketball courts.
I'm so sorry, let me finish.
Oh, I'm so sorry, okay.
So you're removing the 3 cottages, you're taking the basketball court and the playground, and you're removing those spaces that our children currently play at, moving it to the front of the school. But how much area that our children are playing, that's to me, it's being reduced some. Is it going to be reduced?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to answer your first question. If we move all those things into that green space, yes, that green space would be reduced, and so we would need to, this is why I think we need to have further conversations. The one thing that I should have said earlier as well, as everything east of Llewellyn is considered for Ghent School. So Maury is only using west side of Llewellyn during the day, and during the hours that Ghent School is operational, what's been discussed is consider that whole side of the site for the Ghent School. So it'll be the front lawn plus the fields to the north side. So things are shifting around,
Okay,
but there's all of those fields available for the Ghent School.
got it, all right. Well, let's, Dr.
Go ahead, Mr.
Just follow-up question on the natatorium, excellent design. So, and making sure that this has been built so that this is for all citizens to be able to go in and work. So our students will be safe during the operations of school to be able to work it. But then also if Parks and Recs or any of our rec swims, they can come in and still be able to utilize that facility as well. Is that correct?
That is the discussion, that is our understanding so far in discussions between Norfolk Public Schools and City of Norfolk Parks and Recreation. And just one clarification, it wouldn't be open to the general public, it'd be open for the rec leagues. So yes, shared use.
Got it, okay, all right. I just want to just make it abundantly clear that the taxpayers are paying for it, so I want to make sure the taxpayers have access to the buildings they're paying for.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Dr. White?
Madam Chair, I would like to ask Mr. Fraley to come up to the podium. I know Mr. Fraley has been very instrumental in our multiple site visits at Ghent, looking at the possibility of various space relocation. And Mr. Fraley, at this time, if you can share some insight.
Good evening. Just for clarification, the inside project is, again, is under our control. That is not part of our agreement with this group of folks. So we'll be responsible for making any upgrades to Ghent in relation to classroom space, and we will follow BDE requirements, which is a minimum of 600 square feet. We've already done all that research, so I've met with the principal and the assistant principal 3 times over the course of probably the last 5 weeks. And they've asked for a number of accommodations to be made, and we're looking at doing that. We're currently pricing it. But I'd like to draw everybody's attention back to the fields, because I want to clarify a point. I hear we're really concerned, I hear we're really concerned about mutual space. So Mel, can you, or would you all take the slides back to Ghent, please? All right. Again, good evening. So this space right here would generally be dedicated to Maury because it's a baseball field, and we generally don't want people on it. It needs to be well manicured, well taken care of. But all this space here, and I wouldn't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure that's 3 acres. We can build a fence that goes right to the school, so during the day, this is total access, secluded for the students of Ghent. Combined with all this up front, they would have more space than they need for physical education, play activities. They'll have 2 playgrounds up here that are separated with more play space in between. They're going to have a basketball court in the front, closer to Shirley than the building, so it minimizes the noise for instructional interference from all the noise. And we've had these conversations just recently, so they haven't had a chance to do this. And that's what we think suits everybody. So there'll be, again, ample space, and I wouldn't get too caught up and worried about where fence lines are, because none of that is locked in place until we all sit down and discuss how we're going to separate that properly, so the Ghent students have everything they need. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Fraley.
Any other questions?
Ms. Basine?
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Paulson.
Yes, when you made the comment that an agency, and I didn't catch it,
Oh,
said
the
something about
Department of
5.
Education.
Department of Education, the DOE said that the school should have 5 acres
A minimum of 5 acres.
play. Is that for new construction or existing?
That's a good question.
Because I don't, in some places, we may not have the space to do it, but it looks like there's a way to make that happen here to get more space. But if we're doing new construction overall, we may be bound to that, is what I was trying to get.
I
So because of the new construction, it will make a requirement, but the requirements usually are for not existing, is what I'm trying to get to. Thank you.
Those are suggestions, they're not mandates, just so you all know.
They're suggestions. That's
Those
what
are VUE suggestions, they're not mandates for acreage.
That's what I assumed.
Next time we come back, we'll have a diagram of all of the acreage of everything, and you can see how everything moves around. We have it all measured. I just don't know the number of that off the top of my head, and I don't want to say the incorrect number. We'll have a diagram for you.
Madam Chair. Yeah, just one last comment. And I know you have made a concerted effort to engage the community, and I know Norfolk Public Schools has also put out countless robocalls and, to alert folks of the engagement opportunities. But to be specific, about, like, I appreciate the civic leagues being involved and being a target audience, but not only, Maury pulls from the feeder schools that go into Maury to specifically target those school communities too, in the engagement process. And I don't know what that currently is, but to include the school communities that feed into Maury, and specifically Ghent, because we do have a pathway from Ghent to Maury. So I think that's critically important, and perhaps was an unintentional, oversight. But whatever we can do to, like I said, this is going to be part of a bigger planning process for the district, and so how we handle this is really important.
And we'll make a note of that for sure for the third meeting that we have upcoming.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So I'm reviewing over the interim agreement that both the City School Board and Heartland entered into August 15, 2024. Just going down to the part on SWAM, the plan. It says that the service shall also include delivery of minority-owned, women-owned, and small business participation plans. Have you done those yet? Have you started working with Black Brand? That's one of Hampton Roads' regional Black Chamber of Commerce. Have you been reaching out with them and talking with any small minority-owned businesses?
Say that.
A good percentage of our team.
Yeah. And
Yes, a good percentage of our current team is SWAM certified, but
Okay.
in terms of trade partners,
Yeah.
we're not right now, we're in the internal budgeting phase.
Gotcha.
Where we haven't gotten to the point where we're soliciting contracts for pricing and locking into those subcontractual relationships. That will come once we get into the comprehensive agreement phase, where we have to start actually getting some people on board contractually.
Got it. So, okay. And no commitments on a percentage of how much you would subcontract out to a SWAM? Nothing like that as your construction company?
Well, we do reach out to SWAM certified businesses, and I'm not familiar right now with what the requirements are for the city of Norfolk, but whatever they are, we will meet and exceed those.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yatsen.
We will now move on to agenda item 2.02, Maury High School approval of schematic design, and a vote is required. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the Maury High School schematic design?
I move, gotta get my glasses, okay. I move that we approve the Maury High School approval of schematic design. Yes.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. Ms. Tiffany Moore Buffalo brought forth the motion and was seconded by Vice Chair Alfreda Thomas. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Ms. Basine, I'm sorry.
I would like the motion to include with the understanding that there is still flexibility in the design, just so that it's on record that we are understanding that there is flexibility in the design, so that.
So would you like to amend the motion?
I would like to amend the motion to include that.
Second.
Ms. Moore,
I was just gonna include it in my
Oh.
main motion, so
Okay.
we won't have to
If you
do a
want to
two.
retract, yes.
Okay, so I move that we approve the Maury High School approval of schematic design with flexibility that the design,
With the understanding?
with the
The
understanding,
that it includes, it allows for flexibility.
with it allowing flexibility moving forward.
Right.
Did you get that, Karen? Can you read that back? Because I'm not sure.
Yes.
Mr. Paulson, you had a comment?
Yes, hate to say this, but we should extend the motion to include the Ghent neighborhood representatives, that they've made a very distinct case this last 2 weeks or longer with the emails to us, and we need to reassure them that they are included in this process.
So would you like to amend the motion?
Yes.
With
Yes,
this motion, I'm gonna expand on it, with the Ghent community included in discussions of the built Maury High School.
A representative.
Right,
Well, I don't think we can do the speak, not in, the way this would happen is we still have to reach out to them, but we can't take 500 individuals at one time to be involved in this process. I think they need to select someone to be their representative and be involved.
Oh, so if I understand you correctly, you're asking for a selection process of a representative from the Ghent school community to be part of?
That's too convoluted for this.
Yes.
I think we've set direction for the administration to specifically include the Ghent school community, so I
As
think
long
that's,
as, excuse me,
It's two separate.
yeah.
as long as the community is involved, and
Yes.
I think that's an important piece. And,
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to make sure that that is in there when we move forward.
Right,
Dr. White?
absolutely.
And the administration is very aware of the concerns. And I had Mr. Fraley to come up, and also Ms. Price in her presentation has some next steps about the community engagement piece for Ghent, and I can guarantee that will happen.
Yes.
We will have community engagement, meeting with the Ghent administration, what stakeholders will represent, but they will have input in the decisions that we make around Ghent.
So, Madam Chair, may I have Ms. Tanner to restate the motion so everyone is clear what we're voting on?
Ms. Tanner, please restate the motion.
Yes, approve the Norview High School schematic design with the understanding it allows flexibility moving forward and includes the Ghent community in the discussion of Norview High School.
But we can remove
Remove the Ghent.
we can remove the Ghent community.
Because that's understood.
That's
We've-
understood.
We've made a commitment around that.
It's a
Yeah.
separate commitment.
Yes.
Because we're going to listen to everyone.
High School schematic design with the understanding allows flexibility.
Yes.
Ms. Tanner, please call the roll vote.
Buffalo, the C,
Aye.
Buffalo,
Aye.
Inge,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Olson,
No.
Thomas,
Aye.
Calogero.
Aye. Motion is approved. Next, we have agenda item 2.03, School Board Goal 2, interim measures number 1 and 2. Dr. Pohl, please come forward to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair DeCalagero, Vice Chair Ms. Thomas, members of the board, and Dr. White. I am here this afternoon to present on School Board 2 Measures 1 and Measures 2. Just 2.1, that's where I want to start. It is. I don't know how your eyes are, but I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So as we recall, Board Goal 2 is around the percentage of students reading on or above grade level by the end of third grade, as measured by the reading SOL test that we want to increase from 45% from SY 2021 to at least 75% by SY 26-27. And specifically with what we're looking at with 2.1 is around the new data on vowels. Previously, we were measuring PALs. So with the new data, we don't have a measure set yet since it's a brand new assessment, but I do want to share our winter data, which is very promising. So as the data show, for students in first grade, there was an increase in the percentage of students showing low-level risk of not being on track of reading of 12.9 points. So we saw improvement of 12.9 points. Additionally, there was a decline in the percentage of students identified as at risk of not being on track of 3.4 points. So we're moving students in the right direction. And then for our students in second grade, there's an increase of the low-level risk of not being on track of 20.1%. So some great gains from the fall to the winter there. And additionally, there was a decline in the percentage of students at the high-risk category of 7.2 points. So that was some outstanding data. Again, if you recall the fall data when I was printed, I was kind of giddy. I'm near the same point with the data that we're seeing in the winter here. What's going well, we're seeing with the student reading plans, if you recall, the Virginia Literacy Act requires student reading plans for any student below a certain threshold on the VALS assessment. So our student reading plans that have been created, they're creating more focused interventions for all of our students, moving them out of the high-risk band. And both grade levels saw double-digit gains of students moving into the low-level risk band from the fall to the winter VALS assessment. A couple things that we still need to focus on. For students in first grade, 36.5% of them continue to be identified as high risk and not being on grade level. And students in second grade, that number is 28.8%. So just a quick review here that we try to do with the previous action steps. One thing was around professional development on the use of VALS, especially since it's a newer assessment. I'm proud to say the English office is providing monthly replicable professional development to the building reading specialists on the use of VALS data. All administrators were provided training in October. An additional VALS refresher training was provided in January to all teachers and administrators as well. And the PD to our early literacy tutors, which is now in its 4th year of implementation. And this corresponds to the students who are identified as high risk. The score level in VALS determines who our tutors really work with at the early grade levels. And PD was offered November 4th and again on January 29th, specifically on reading the scores. And they did data coaching sessions. They were facilitated with every early literacy tutor and reading specialist during the progress monitoring windows of November and February. Using the VALS data for small group tutoring, all students in the high-risk band have specific measurable literacy goals based on instructional indicators from the VALS assessment data. So as we've gone through, those literacy plans are live, and the reading specialists at the buildings are looking at those on the regular basis. Develop and monitor those plans, as I was just talking about. There are currently 2,891 student reading plans that were developed, leading to a 10% reduction in students in the high-risk band with VALS from the fall to the winter. So a good, strong focus there. We're also working to monitor the master schedules and intervention schedules to make sure they match up well. And the English office continues to support the schools with monitoring and adjusting those schedules and making sure that the tutors are doing the pull out or the push in as required. And then PD around our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions, which is around the SIPs and the Lixia Core 5. The English office is offering professional development. They've done 5 separate cohorts of intervention providers on evidence-based literacy interventions as well. And then the last couple of bullets here, monthly PD on high-quality instructional materials. They're providing monthly replicable PD to our building reading specialists on HQIM. And there's also been training from Benchmark Advanced, which is the new text that we put into place this year that was on the VDOA's list that supported the Virginia Literacy Act. And then providing families with literacy strategies, resources, and materials. Each family of students with a reading plan, they get specific strategies and resources that are sent home to help students meet their literacy goals. And some next steps, oops, sorry, that scrolled a little quick. Update and monitor the reading plans, continue to do that following the winter data, and develop new reading plans for recently identifying students. So if we did have any students that drop down into the range, they will be required to have a reading plan as well. So those are all in process right now. Use the VALS data to identify literacy trends and inform targeted PD sessions for the future as we go through, just like we do with our standards. You know, what are the standards that our students struggle with more. So as we get this data, we're learning from this data as we go through the year. We're also conducting intervention walks to provide feedback and coaching to ensure intervention strategies are implemented with fidelity and effectiveness. We also were one of the divisions across the state that partnered with the VDOE on implementing the Virginia English Language Arts walkthrough protocol. That's something that they're developing at the VDOE, and we wanted to be on the front line of that. So our team stepped right up, and we are using the protocol the VDOE's developed to give them feedback on how to improve that. And then to continue providing families with literacy strategies, resources, and materials for home support. So I'll pause there after the VALS data to answer any questions or comments you may have.
Does anyone have a question? Ms. Basine?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pohl, for the presentation. Let me just scroll back up here. So would you say, so the individual targets from going from fall to winter, did you internally have specific targets for the winter data, like what you expected to see? Were there targets set?
No, we really couldn't with the new assessment. So if you remember when we used to talk about PALS data, the PALS data, the PALS assessment got more difficult each phase. So it was until we really had a couple years of data to really set what our targets would be. This being brand new, our target was to improve. and we did. We saw some great improvement. You know, when you see double-digit gains from the fall to the winter assessment, we were very pleased with the direction we're going. And as we have this data through the year, and then hopefully after we've gone through a whole year cycle, when the VDOE releases some statewide data, then we'll really be able to start gauging and seeing, did we grow as much as other divisions from fall and winter, or didn't we? And if we didn't, why didn't we? And having those discussions so that next year we can start to try to pinpoint a little bit more.
Okay, so that was going to be, so you expect to have that data?
I'm hopeful.
To have it, so that next year we would have some winter targets, spring targets that we could better assess like how we're doing in comparison.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. My next question is around the strategies. So what's working well, what isn't working well, and how we know. And so that's, something I routinely ask, and if you could expand on that in terms of what focused interventions that you felt gave the biggest boost for moving students out of the high-risk band.
Sure. So there are a few things that I'd like to mention today. One, I think most importantly, is our early literacy tutoring program that the board has continued to support after the ESSER funding stopped supporting that. But we have, I think, 82 early literacy tutors, and there's nothing better than having a small group or one-on-one instruction for our struggling readers. I think to support that also using the SIPS curriculum. So in NPS, when we started that program, we did a lot of research on what the best curriculum would be for Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention, and SIPS is where we landed. And then if you recall, when the state did their BLA work, they also landed with SIPS about 2.5 years after we did. So we were deep into using SIPS curriculum at that point, and we truly believe the consistency that we see using that has been helpful. And then to stack on top of that, the use of Lexia Core 5 in both the Tier 1 as well as Tier 2, Tier 3 environments. Okay. Again, when we started with looking at online software for reading, that the Lexia is where we landed as Norfolk Public Schools. About 3 years later, the state landed on Lexia as well. So I feel really proud of the decisions that the team in curriculum instruction, working with teachers, made, knowing that it was their evidence-based, research-based, and those, I think, are really strong proponents for our early literacy program. And those are, I know tonight we get comments from the community on the budget, but those are also continue to be in the budget to support the work that we're doing in those areas.
Okay, and they continue to be in the budget at the capacity that we need?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
They are.
All right, let me see.
Anyone else have a question? Or you could continue, Ms. Basine, if you have anything else.
Yeah, so, and can you talk a little bit about, especially, as we're a new board getting adjusted to the progress monitoring, how you know that, the early literacy tutors, how you all monitor how these interventions are in fact making progress for our students.
Well, I think the proof is really in the numbers that we're seeing here right now, because the students our early literacy tutors work with are the ones who are scoring in the high risk range in VALS. And we're seeing those students move up, as well as other students move up to other levels. So just by seeing that data and change, we see that. And a part of that work is also the monthly professional development we do with them, and also part of the literacy walks that we're doing. We don't just look at the teaching in the classroom, we also monitor what are our tutors doing and making sure they're working with the small groups or they're pushing into the classroom. And we really give specific direction on how that's supposed to work.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Ains?
Awesome, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things I was looking over. First off, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of Norfolk Public Schools. So looking through the presentations and then also comparing, looking at our neighbors in Hampton Roads, Norfolk's the lowest in third grade reading and proficiency compared to a lot of our other South Side Hampton.
Are you referring to as far as SOL scores?
Yes, I am.
Yes,
we are. It's like 18 out of 30 schools are not reading at grade level by third grade.
Correct, which is
okay.
why we have the board goal.
Got it. No, I understand. I understand why we got the board goal. I'm just trying to see why we still have this. This has been going on for years, where our kids have not been able to read on grade level, and I just want to understand what this administration is doing to help figure that out. And are they bringing in all the correct people, the experts, community partners? Because 18 out of 30 schools not being able to read on grade level, and we're literally fifth. We're the last one out of all the schools. We're setting our kids up for failure if we're not, and hear me out on this, we're setting them up for failure if we're not giving them everything in the toolbox to throw at it to assure that we lift them up, to give them the tools to read. Like I told Dr. White, I said I was gonna have a very direct conversation. I am very disappointed in Norfolk Public Schools to where we are now. Our children are the economic engine of Norfolk. That's our next generation. And people, families, businesses are not going to want to invest in Norfolk if our education system is failing. So I applaud you. I see the increases that we are doing, but I just say that we do need to do more. Looking at schools, Chesterfield Academy, we can go Southside, STEM, Jaycox. A lot of these schools are the ones that have the lowest reading scores. And what else are we doing?
So what we do is we also differentiate our support levels as well. So we don't do equal supports, we do equitable supports. So each year we look at the data, and that's how we determine how many early literacy teachers they may have, or what different supports they have at each school based on individual school data. And Mr. Ainge, I would like to comment on, this is my 5th year with the division. Prior to the pandemic, the reading scores were on a decline, and then the pandemic hit, and I think everyone around the state clearly had some. But since the pandemic, we have been on a steady increase. Since the pandemic, we have put in place the early literacy tutors. Since the pandemic, we have put in Lexia Core 5. Since the pandemic, we've done SIPs. Since the pandemic, we've done specific science of reading instruction and professional development with our teachers prior to where the VDOE mandated that. So we have put a lot of effort into it, and I do fully support Mr. Brady and his team and the work they've done and the work that our teachers do on a continuous basis. Do we have work to do? Absolutely we do. However, I do believe we have the right points in place, and our data is starting to show and to see the growth. And this year's data, specifically where we're looking at the early literacy data right here, where our students, this is our 3rd graders now, this is the first grade where they did not suffer because of the pandemic. And we're seeing their scores start to rise very quickly now. So I do believe you're starting to see this push and this change in the trend with our early literacy.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Just looking at the data.
We do.
Yeah, looking at the data,
Trust
statistics.
Me, I look at the data day in and day out.
I know one of our other goals is high school dropout as well. And so if they can't read on grade level by 3rd grade, it shows that they're more likely to be a high school dropout.
Which is why when I arrived and started having, instructional meetings with my team, my focus was on early literacy before anything else, because it's a long-term, and the board members who've been here that long remember my discussion of this is a long road we're on, but if we don't start with the base, we're never going to show improvement later on.
All right. Are there anything you're doing with the families? Because of course, we can educate them from 7 to 3, 9 to 5, but what mom and dad is doing afterwards. What are some of the strategies y'all are doing?
So there, we support pretty much every single one of our elementary schools with literacy nights, multiple literacy nights. We also support them with materials and access to the online supports that we have to go home with students and to have parents see them as well. We do nights where we do professional development for parents. You'll see also Family University coming up pretty soon, where we'll offer some stuff there as well. And then, as stated earlier, specifically with our students who have reading plans, we make sure specific items that are related to their deficiencies are sent home as well to help parents support their children. And then we also, all of our Title I schools, with Dr. Cito in the back will attest to this, all of our Title I schools, we send home libraries for students. So they get books to have at the house, because research also shows just having books in the house and having accessibility improves literacy.
Okay. And are we having enough community partners coming in to help with Norfolk Public Schools to help assist and offset?
Sure, and in fact, we're in the midst of an All Cities Reads program right now, and that was fully funded outside of the school division for all the books. So we form relationship wherever we can with that. Past couple winters, we've done partnership, I think, with Salvation Army and a couple others, and we've done book drive-throughs for parents at Christmas time through the holidays, so they can come and get books to give as gifts as well, as much as we can, absolutely. And if anybody's listening, we love our literacy, so anything you want to do, absolutely.
Awesome, thank you. That concludes my questions. I just want to be very straightforward.
Absolutely.
It's just making sure we have a spirit of accountability. I commend your work and all of what MPS teachers are doing to support our students, and I fully back them. I want to just make that abundantly clear, but I just want to see our scores increase a lot higher than where they are.
As we all do, absolutely.
Yes, so that's it. Thank you.
And Mr. Inge, I just want to compliment you on asking about what we are doing for the parents. In addition, I know communications and community engagement are collaborating with Title I, and once a quarter we do have professional development workshops during the school day for those parents that may not be able to make it at night, during the school day based on the data at that particular school on literacy and numeracy and science as well.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Yes,
White.
sir.
All right, so this will be a little similar, so I'm going to go through some of the phases because it's still focused on early literacy. But our second measure is around STAR data, so this is around specific with third grade data now. So the measure for this year is that the percentage of students scoring proficient, which is at or above and on watch, in third grade STAR will move from 57.6% to 67%, and the percentage of students scoring at urgent intervention will decrease from 26.6% down to 16% in the spring. So what does our data show us? Again, I'm very pleased to report this data as we move from fall to winter. Students in grade 3 exceeded their target for winter performance in both the proficiency level and the urgent intervention level. And as seen on the line graphs, which I'll go up to because they do look so pretty, as seen on the line graphs, the student performance in both proficiency and urgent intervention levels show significant improvement from the initial tracking point of this data. So if you see here, we started tracking for this specific, we've tracked it much longer, but started putting it on this sheet for this specific goal. For the spring of 22-23, we were at 57.9%. And right now in the winter, we're scoring 69.8%. So we're seeing good growth already. We're above our goal. And as far as urgent intervention, we were at 27.5% of urgent intervention when we first started with this goal, and now we're down to 12.9%. So we're seeing some great movement. Thank you, Dr.
Excellent.
Martin. I saw that little clap. I appreciate that. So what's going well? The percentage of third grade students, proficiency increased by 7.7% from fall to winter in 24-25. And winter proficiency was 5.8% above the target. So we've already exceeded the target we've set for the year. So that doesn't mean we're done pushing, because we're still pushing, but we've already exceeded where we thought we would be in order to make the goal of 75% by the 27-28 school year. So we're on a good footing for that right now. The percentage of third grade students in urgent intervention decreased by 4.4%, and we're 3.9% below the target already. And 18 out of 30 schools with third grade met the required target for proficiency, and we're below the target for urgent intervention. So we're seeing that growth there. As well, our Black, White, Asian, and 2 or more race gap groups exceeded both the proficiency and urgent intervention targets as well in the third grade screening. What's not going well? So still some work to do like always. Our EL gap group had 37.3% of the students in proficient, which is below the mark of our all students group, and 34.2% urgent intervention, as well as our students with disabilities at 35.8 proficiency and 37.7 urgent intervention. So we know those 2 specific subgroups we really need to work with and target more. The status of the previous action steps, this still follows early literacy, so I'm not going to review every single one again. They're all very similar. And our next steps as well are pretty similar as far as updating the reading plans and developing the new reading plans, because our third graders also that are at high risk take the vowels, so we use the vowels for that data as well. And then in March, we're providing division-wide training on strategies to address these literacy deficits. And the intervention walks are going on using the VDOE protocol I talked about as well. And that will conclude my Measure 2.2 presentation.
Are there any questions?
I'll just have one.
Ms. Moore?
Dr. Pohl, I've asked this many times. Our participation rate is...
So we actually, one of the things we do with our Rockstar Award is around star participation. Okay. And we maintain, especially the third grade, we're 92 to 95%. We meet high participation rate on this test. Good question, though, Ms. Moore.
Ms. Basine?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Pohl. Again, my questions will be similar to what I asked previously regarding the strategies. So strategies that you are finding are working well. I mean, that's a good review of the data, but what are we doing that has worked well? And then what were we doing that didn't work well that we might have abandoned or changed direction on?
So I think it's going to be a very similar answer too, since it's all focused on early literacy. It's that focus. I think what's really the next step above why we're seeing more growth now from fall to winter than we saw in previous years is that the literacy plans and the specific reading plans for each student, because it's focused in on their individual data. Also, our teachers and our principals now have access to such granular level data at their fingertips that really is making a difference in the classroom level of instruction, as far as even using active data to help with small group instruction, or when they're doing pull-outs, working with the early literacy tutors to know specifically what standards the students might be deficient in. So those are really the strengths, and I think what's been taken away more is just that whole group understanding of, well, we're gonna when we're doing a tutor, we're all gonna learn this one standard together, because that's what most of the class might not have known. Having the data the way we have it now, they can really get down to the individual students' needs, and we're starting to see that reflect in our results.
Okay. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. My next question is, so 18 out of the 30 schools with third grade met the required target for proficiency. Is that target for the winter, or are you talking about target?
That was the target for the winter.
For the winter, mm-hmm. Okay. And then where were we before? Do you know what was it in the fall, or even in the spring of last year?
No,
or winter last year?
I don't have those proficiencies. Okay. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, I was just curious if that was an increase. But if you get a chance to, they met the required target for winter proficiency
mm-hmm.
target. And then, you talk about, you describe here the groups that we did see improvement. around, but again, the EL groups and our
SWD.
special education are two areas where we know we need to accelerate learning. Are you finding that the interventions that are being used for English monolingual, students are effective for those where English is a second language?
So I think part of that is why you see in the budget a request for 33 more EL teachers
Okay.
to be able to help with our high need students.
Okay. So can you tell me a little more about, so the additional teachers, I get the, having the human resource there, but the actual delivery of the intervention itself, how will that be different? Are these bilingual teachers? Are we looking for?
No, so they're not necessarily bilingual, but
Okay.
they will be certified as an English learner teacher.
Okay.
In fact, we have around 30 teachers right now that are going through our Grow Your Own program, and then we have 5 more that are just doing it individually on their own, so that we'll have applicants for these positions when they become open, pending the passing of the budget. But really what it comes down to then is really just having more interactive time with our EL students that they just don't have right now. So that's the biggest part of that intervention and why it's so important.
Okay. So the interactive time will increase with the
Correct.
number of
Yeah, so
teachers.
the new way we'll staff those is based off of their access for L score, and we'll tier those levels. And the ones who show the highest level of need will have more time with an EL teacher. Same way we tier around with the tutors that we use.
Okay. All right. And then what about our special education population?
Yeah, so we continue to do some really close collaboration between CNI and our learning support department, and we are continuing to work on the instructional side of support with our students. We've talked about that before, about that divide with compliance and instruction and the importance to have both of them. So this year's been, I would consider, a very successful year on how we have collaborated with those two departments to where the PD for the teachers are also commingled. So it's not like we're pulling out our co-teachers to do specific training while we're pulling our instructional core teachers to do a different training. We're doing a lot of that work together to also emphasize how are they co-planning and how are they using the data and how are they co-teaching and how are we supporting our students with disabilities even better.
Okay.
Other question? Thank you.
Madam
Thank you.
Chair?
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dr.
Sorry, just one more. So it would be interesting to also say, we were talking about how many kids are meeting proficiency, but, I'd love to also be able to see how many are exceeding that too, at the third grade level. I don't know, I don't expect you to have that.
Sorry, my mouse ran away.
Yeah.
Really that, then we would just have to do a separate piece of data on the students who are at the top tier, because our proficiency are the top 2 tiers.
Right.
So we'd have to do something on the top tier, which I guess if it was the will of the board to have the more data, we could do some of that work, yeah.
I know
But
that's I know that's not in our progress monitoring
And I will let you know, internally with our data warehouse, that's a click away for all the principals,
Okay.
and all the teachers and all of our tutors have that access point. So,
Again, thank you.
thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Fuller.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
I'll learn a lot.
At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Spivey to the podium. Ms. Spivey will present a highlights of the superintendent's fiscal year 2025-2026 proposed operating budget. Ms. Spivey? Much longer walk in here, Ms. Spivey.
because then we have the educational. Oh, yeah. it was
Change the PowerPoint around, I see.
3.01.
Make sure it's the same part.
Wait.
Good evening, Chair DeCalagera, Vice Chair Thomas, members of the school board, and Dr. White. I'm pleased to present a quick overview of the superintendent's proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2026 and the annual budget process that will begin, for the budget that begins on July 1 of 2025.
Ms. Spivey?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is this portion of the agenda for the benefit of the public hearing, this presentation, or is that specific for
It
the?
is. So should we potentially wait until 6 o'clock to start?
If it's for the benefit of those who come for the public hearing, we should probably adhere to the time that we set.
Let's call for a
I'm sorry to interrupt.
15-minute recess.
Do you have to do anything to move it off to
No.
or change it?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you. That was my question as well. Oh, I have to take a formal request for a recess. Ms. Moore, Buffalo,
Sure. I'll move for a recess of 15 minutes.
is there a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Buffalo, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Ms. Tanner?
Ms. Buffalo, Ms.
I am a
Tanner.
clerk, but I'm not sure.
I was thinking about Ms. Tanner.
She's not getting paid for this.
That will be out.
Aye.
Gotcha.
Aye.
Aye.
I had my times
Aye.
mixed up. You got it.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's take a
15-minute
break.
recess. Public hearing on the superintendent's fiscal year 2005 to 2006 proposed operating budget. First, Ms. Spivey, Chief Financial Officer, will come forth to share a brief presentation and/or discussion. Please come forward, Ms. Spivey.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair DeCalagera, Vice Chair Thomas, school board members, and Dr. White. I'm pleased to present a quick overview of the superintendent's proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2026 and the budget process for the year that will begin July 1st of 2025. Next slide, please. Thanks. The superintendent's proposed budget has 5 priorities. They are employee compensation, employee retention and recruitment, right-sizing the school system, safety, security, and building maintenance, and instructional resources for students and schools. Next slide. Looking at the first goal, which is employee compensation, for teachers, the proposed starting pay for a new teacher, it will increase from $57,500 to $60,088. That is a 4.5% increase. For our current employees, this proposal includes a step increase and a COLA that averages 4.5% increase. And employees at the top of the pay scale will receive a 2.2% one-time bonus. Next slide. For classified employees, starting hourly pay is proposed to increase from $15.05 to $15.72. The proposal provides a one-step increase and a COLA for current classified employees, which also averages 4.5% increase. Employees at the top of the pay scale would receive a 2.2% one-time bonus. Administrators are the same. The proposal provides a one-step increase in a COLA for current administrators and provides for those at the top of their pay scale a 2.2% one-time bonus. Next slide. The total proposed budget is $772.9 million, with the general fund proposed at $450.2 million, the student nutrition fund proposed at $26.9 million, the grants and special projects fund at $42.3 million, and the capital improvement fund at $253 million. The general fund budget, again, being proposed at $450.2 million. The majority of that budget is for instructional support at 71%. Technology at 4.7%, operation and maintenance at 12.1%, facilities at 7.8%, and pupil transportation at 19.8%. 4.4%, $19.8 million. The capital improvement budget is proposed at $253 million. The largest project is the Maury High School rebuild project. And then as you can see, there are also several renovations and upgrades to current facilities. Next slide. The next steps in our process tonight, of course, we're having the public hearing. On March 19th, the school board business meeting, the school board is proposed to vote on the superintendent's proposed operating budget. By April 1st, on or before April 1st, the school's proposed budget has to be submitted to the City Council. City Council will then will then adopt their budget. Based on their budget, the school board may need to look at any proposed differences and then adopt a final budget. And that will be in May of 2020 of this year. And with that, Chair DeCalagera, that concludes my prepared comments for the introductory section of the public hearing on the superintendent's proposed fiscal year 26 budget.
Thank you, Ms. Spivey. I would like to open the floor for any questions or discussions by the board. Questions or discussion? Mr. Paulson.
On the Maury High School renovation, here we have proposed cost of $231. What is the city's, what if they said they were going to allocate for that project?
Ms. Spivey, can you answer that?
Ms. Spivey?
He's coming back.
Sorry, we're not letting you get out that quickly.
You're going to get your steps in.
The city's working on their proposed budget at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought they'd made a proposal before or an indication of.
They do an annual budget. Yes, I mean,
Okay.
it's been in the plan, but as far as the actual fiscal
Okay.
26.
That will come up.
Right.
Soon. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Just waiting because Tanya will get us in at the last minute. Do you have any questions, Tanya?
Not at the moment.
All right, thank you, Ms. Spivey. Tonight for agenda item 3.0, we will have a public hearing on the superintendent's fiscal year 2025 to 2026 proposed operating budget. If you would like to share your comments with the board, you must have signed up with the clerk prior to the meeting. Ms. Tanner, please call the first speaker.
Madam Chairwoman DeCalagero, we have 17 speakers this evening that signed up prior to the public hearing. Our first speaker is Sonia Lassiter, followed by Michael Dyer. Sonia Lassiter? Okay. Michael Dyer?
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of all the NJROTC teachers in Norfolk High Schools. There are 12 of us in total. Last year, as you know, we did not receive any pay raise. What I want to know is this year, with the 4.5% increase in pay, will that include the NJROTC teachers? Thank you very much.
Next, we have Melissa Coffin.
Yours is on the top. It's okay. I've got strong legs. Now that we've gotten the entertainment portion of the evening out of the way. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to speak today and for your service to the community and our children. My name is Melissa Coffin. I'm a proud member of the PTA and mother of 2 children in Norfolk Public Schools. I also have an 18-year-old son who graduated from First Colonial High School in Virginia Beach and is now attending William & Mary. I stand before you today to advocate for my children's right to a safe and healthy physical school environment. I would like to enter into the record a pivotal study titled How Crumbling School Facilities Perpetuate Inequality. This research highlights that the condition of school facilities plays a significant role in student achievement and consistently shows that the conditions in which students learn and teachers teach directly impact overall student achievement. The evidence is clear. Schools that are well maintained see student achievement levels varying between 5 to 17 percentile points compared to those that are not. Furthermore, maintenance issues not only affect student performance, but also contribute to teacher turnover, job satisfaction, school climate, and attendance rates. Oceanair Elementary currently experiences an absentee rate of nearly 25%. My son Walker, who is in first grade, attended Oceanair last year for kindergarten. Upon my initial visit in the summer of 2023, I was struck by the state of the school. The landscaping was overgrown. All the overall appearance was uninviting. While I initially believed that as long as the teachers were good, the physical environment didn't matter, I soon realized that the conditions were affecting Walker's health. He suffers from severe allergies and respiratory issues, which have only been exacerbated by the environment at Oceanair. In memory of my oldest child, Reese, who bravely battled terminal brain cancer and lost her battle in 2013 at the age of 8. I have become an advocate for my children and their peers. Every day I send my children into a building that is literally crumbling around them. The caulking around the windows is deteriorating. Paint is chipping. There's holes in the ceiling tiles that are visible. I worry about the potential exposure to asbestos, especially after recent roof repairs and that the building was built in 1955. The teachers at Oceanair are dedicated and talented, many with advanced degrees and years of experience. However, they have expressed to me their frustrations, even sharing images of the inadequate conditions. On the first day of school of this year, I observed grass that was up to knee-high, broken playground equipment marked with caution tape, and litter scattered across the grounds. In stark contrast, when I visited Larchmont Elementary, I noticed the pristine conditions, and it prompted me to realize the inequality in our school system. As a mother, I feel compelled to advocate for not just my children, but all the children in Norfolk Public Schools. I began a petition to address the urgent need, which each of you guys will have a copy, for the improvements at Oceanair, collecting signatures during school events, speaking with parents, and raising awareness about the need for a clean and safe learning environment. I urge the board to prioritize the health and safety of our students and invest in the maintenance of Oceanair. I hope we can work together and stop perpetuating inequality. Thank you.
Zuravinsky. Lauren Zuravinsky.
All right, good evening. My name is Lauren Zuravinsky. I'm a Norfolk resident and a parent of 2 children at Ghent School, one in the elementary program and one in the middle school. I want to start by thanking the members of the school board, especially those who took the time to exchange emails and meet with me and other concerned parents in person. I really appreciate the board and their willingness to engage in respectful discussion and for your leadership. I am so lucky to be resourced enough to be an educated parent who reviewed all of the all of the Maury project material on the websites that were available. I attended the community meetings. I spoke to an architect on the project team. I reached out to school board members, and I am a certified design build professional. And with all of that, I've been working really hard to be heard. I appreciate that I feel heard today, but it's taken a lot of effort. And with all of that effort and my resources, what other chances do Ghent parents have who are busy, who may have other things going on, and how are they able to stay well informed and know what's happening at their school if it took this much effort for me to feel heard today? I ask you to look at that process and make adjustments so that there's opportunities for those who are less resourced to be able to understand what's going on. As you realize today, Ghent School hasn't been included in the conversation on how the field design is going to impact the school. Overall, Ghent parents are really excited about the Maury project. We want to see it proceed, and we want to see it proceed with good design. I appreciate Mel Price's presentation today and her statement that even their design team needs to talk to us more to be able to finalize the design. I also want to note that what they can impact and what they said today is the site design, specifically the fields on the side of the street that Ghent is. And what we're currently showing will squeeze what is available into just the space into the front, crowding the building and using up the remaining open space. The schematic design that was approved today will actually require that we make changes within the existing footprint of the school building. So you heard the mobile classrooms are going away. And so what we're asking is that we continue to participate in that process. We're asking, again, leadership and the central administration within Norfolk Public Schools to continue to give us the opportunity to work together to come up with a design, because now we are forced to take that space into the building and will likely have to give up other amenities to make this work. Members of the school board, we continue to request that you learn more and understand and continue to support the benefits of Ghent School as a K-8 community. It provides high-quality educational experience as it stands now for students across the whole city. We appreciate the program, and we appreciate your support of the program and your consideration on how that K-8 function continues to support Norfolk Public Schools as you look towards the future planning and programming and right size of the public district. Thank you so much for your time today.
Robert Lee.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Benjamin Lee III. I'm a 1962 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. I'm here to start the process of considering that, just like Maury, you went through an extensive renovation program for Maury. And somehow in 2022, you came to the conclusion you needed a new school, a new Maury High School. And from your experience, you know that Booker T. Washington, we are having quite a bit of problems with our facility. So I think it's time for the board to start thinking in the future, 2027, 2028, to consider that perhaps now is the time to start thinking about a brand new Booker T. Washington to maintain the legacy of Booker T. Washington. And earlier the lady spoke about maintenance of schools when she talked about mold and germs and all that. And I don't think you would disagree with me, but as school plants get older, they do suffer from that. And Booker T is not an exception. So I'm here to find out how can we start the process of building a brand new Booker T. Washington High School up to the standards just as you are doing for Maury. I know it takes quite a bit of time. You started in 2022, and the projection is 2028 to finish the process. So I'm saying it's now is a time to start thinking about Booker T. Washington and starting our process for a new Booker T. Washington High School. Thank you for your time.
Brittany Raffin.
Good evening, board members. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Brittany Raffin, and I'm a Ghent parent for a first grader and a third grader. And I just wanted to say thank you for hearing us. We really appreciate that each one of you saw our letters, and we heard earlier how much our words meant to the board and how you've reached out and made sure that the design team speaks to us as we move on with the future. The project really blindsided us parents. We were pro-Murray until we realized that 40% reduction to our play area was what was on the docket. So again, we appreciate you looking at it and making sure that there's open collaboration with the future of the design. And we heard from Heartland Construction that they assured us that they're going to relocate our amenities. So one potential suggestion is to phase the J-track, just in case Ghent needs a little bit more time. That was one area that just took out that 50,000 square feet. That if you phased the J-track maybe another year, that would help Ghent with the speed in which this construction is happening. Really, the speed caused this panic. And if it was something that we knew for a couple years, I don't think we would have had the same 2 weeks of emails sent to you all. But anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Zacchaeus Littlejohn.
Hello, good evening.
To the council.
Hmm?
To the council.
Say that?
Yes.
Can you say it
The
again?
school board council.
What's that?
Yeah. Come here. Come on. Thank you, man.
Oh, what you say again?
Hello, good evening to the school board council.
Hello, good evening to the school board counselor.
Your name? I say your name.
My name is Jamal Littlejohn.
And what you want to speak on?
What, want me to say that? I'm going to speak on the bathrooms in Jacobs Elementary School. I would like them to be more sanitary and fix the locks on the doors so I can use the bathroom in peace. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, school board. My name is Mr. Littlejohn. I'll take up none of your time. I'd like to say thank you for providing the EELC program for Jacob School. It's helping my sons and my daughters achieve better grades and get more tutoring and be more happy and going to school, enjoy going to school. And I would like to thank you for the early tutoring classes that y'all provide in the mornings at 8 a.m. for the kids to get extra help if they're having problems in the subjects at school. Thank you.
Next we have Monet Johnson.
Good evening, school board. My name is Monet Johnson. You may know me as an organizer for New Virginia Majority, but I am also a former student that went to, when I was young, Brockton Day Nursery, and then the YMCA Leaders Club graduate. I also spent all of my summers and evenings at a Boys and Girls Club. I am also the child of a mother who had 3 jobs and a father who was incarcerated, and without before and after care, I wouldn't be here. There would have been no one to watch me or take care of me while my mother was gone and my father was gone. And so hearing about the tutoring at Jaycox is amazing, but not all of the students qualify for that. And there really does need to be a budget line item, especially for a school that starts so late. It can be perceived oftentimes as though it feels like people don't think that the parents there work, and they do, and it is very difficult from what these parents are telling us to get their kids to school for start at 9 a.m. when they're supposed to be to work at 7:30. There are kids standing outside of the building at 8:30 in the morning when there are schools that start earlier that have before school programs and after school programs. And if we really want to fully cover and assess the real need of the community, this is one that parents have told us over and over and over again. And I understand that there are a lot of things that need to be done in the city, but determining that Jaycox is an EELC means that there's a specific need in this community. And so we're asking for a line item to bring in a before and after school care provider that isn't just a couple of days a week, even though we enjoy the clubs, a couple of mornings a week, depending on your grade level, depending on your age. There are a lot of children that are left out. So if we could bring in a provider, I just can't even put into words how important that would be. There have been a lot of investments in a lot of places, but Jaycox is going to need a program, and I don't think that we have to set aside $2 million, $3 million, but it might take at least $250,000 for an aftercare program, and then you have before care before that. And while it does sound like a lot of money to someone like myself and like those parents who are trying to not get their hours cut and get their kids to school, it isn't that large of a portion of the budget to have $600,000 for these kids. It really isn't. And it changes the way that they view the world and the friends that they make and how invested in they feel. And I'm saying that as someone who needed them more than anybody. And I have a master's degree now, and I don't think that anything has impacted me or my education like before and after care. So I really hope that y'all consider it. Thank you.
Keenan Baskerville. Keenan Baskerville.
Good evening, school board and Superintendent Birdsong, even though you're not here. My name is Keenan Baskerville, and I'm an organizer with New Virginia Majority. I've been working in Jaycox community since last April, basically ever since it became an EELC. And so since April 2024, I've spoken to nearly 230 parents. That's most of this stack right here. I've spoken to community members and staff of Jaycox conducting a needs assessment of what would have the most valuable impact on the learning community's lives. And my findings suggest that of the 227 responses, 167 people say that a comprehensive before and after school care program would be most beneficial to their immediate needs involving the school. For this reason, I'm asking that the school board consider providing a budget to initiate a before and after school care program at Jaycox that is comprehensive and accessible to all students. Jaycox Elementary School is in Norfolk's fourth stagger, meaning that the school opens at 9 a.m. and not a moment sooner. I've spoken with parents struggling with getting their students to school on time or having to struggle to get to work on time. Parents have decreased their work hours, going from full-time to part-time. I'm talking single-parent families. To ensure their student safety, there's no telling what type of financial strain that may put on a person. Every family doesn't have that type of flexibility. So what do you think they should do? I have an answer, because I'm out in the mornings and I talk with the parents on their doorsteps. Some parents have to allow their students to walk themselves to school in the morning and pray their students come back home safely. Other parents have to drop their kids off early and let other parents keep a watchful eye. But if you have a child in kindergarten or say pre-K, what do you do? J. Cox does open their school in the mornings for the third graders and above, just for tutoring and SOL. And I'm aware that J. Cox has an after-school program through the EELC, but I want to remind you all that it's not accessible to all the students, because one is primarily for students in first grade and higher. J. Cox starts at pre-K. And secondly, the requirements for the program are good attendance, good behavior, and good grades. Signifiers of students with difficulties in school that could use an out-of-school program to help aid with their growth and development. I've talked with Dr. Walton in October about this issue before, and he's told me that they've struggled with this due to staff and budgetary issues. And for that reason, I am asking you to create a budget for J. Cox to have a before and after school care program. Thank you.
Richard Newsom Jr.
Good evening, Norfolk School Board members, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Richard Newsom Jr. I live in Larrymore Lawns, and I'm a proud father of 3 boys. One in 8th, one in 4th, and the other in 1st grade. My oldest son, who's in middle school, and tonight I ask that you consider additional support for musical education in Norfolk Public Schools. Music education is critical to the development of well-rounded students. Studies show that schools with strong music programs experience higher education rates and better attendance. Music also strengthens math and reading skills. Plus, music education provides positive reinforcement for healthy social and emotional youth development. Please ensure that there is enough funding and staff support so that every student has access to quality music instruction, extensive and diverse music curriculum, well-maintained musical instruments, ample music performance opportunities, and access to extracurricular activities such as concerts and after-school music clubs. Please ensure that these opportunities are available at every level, elementary, middle, and high school. Music is for all. I appreciate all that you do for every student, and I ask that you make music education an even higher priority in the budget and beyond. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Carl Poole. Carl Poole.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Carl Poole, and I'm an organizer of New Virginia Majority. I'm also a former latchkey kid and a person who attended J. Cox Elementary School when he was a child, along with my sister, and just like my mother and my aunts and uncles before us. So when I talk about J. Cox, it's not just professionally, it's a personal interest. I used to walk there. I was a walker to J. Cox. Now, right now, I'm sure as you know, J. Cox is one of about a dozen schools that begins their school day on that 4th tier of their stagger, 9 o'clock. Now, I don't know too many working parents that start their school day after 9 o'clock, after 9 a.m. So oftentimes they're going to work and their kids are left to their own devices until they do as they're told and go to school, which means there are many J. Cox students who are outside as early as 8:30 waiting for those doors to open. Now, don't get me wrong. There are opportunities for J. Cox students at times to enter that school earlier, say like for preparation for SOL testing for 3rd graders. But that's not open to everybody at the school. There is an opportunity here to create a before and after school program at J. Cox that is year-round, that is available to all students, that could be a game changer for their outcomes. Those doors come open, you don't just have kids sitting around, you could have kids doing homework, preparing for the school day, getting primed to learn more over that school day, and even after school to do the same, all while kind of relieving some of the stress that working parents have, trying to figure out what to do with their kids in between the time when they definitely have to go to work, earn a living, before they can come and pick them up in the evening. Now, J. Cox did have some more expanded before school care a few years ago, but if we're talking about this EELC school, this Equity and Excellence Learning Center school, active parent engagement, understanding what families and students need is what the game is all about. So, we've spoken to over 200 parents and caregivers, and they've identified this as a primary need, before and after school care that is enriching to their kids. If it's about feedback and seeing that response, they kind of co-design the schools they want to build, it's about creating the things that they want to build. So what does that build on your end? Well, you kind of need some money in the budget. One, to bring in partners to make this kind of thing happen. Two, to take a look at the measures of what it takes to do it and how well it's working. And three, to maybe look at expanding it eventually, but take some cash to get it started. So if we're talking about adding money to the budget for a universally used before and after school care program that is all throughout the school year, please, you need to put it on the dotted line and add it as a line item budget, a line item in this budget. Thank you for your time.
Elise McMath, excuse me.
Good evening. My name is Elise McMath. I'm a former educator. I worked at a severely underfunded school, and it's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about this community school model, part of the reason why I decided to work for New Virginia Majority, part of the reason why we've been organizing at the grassroots level for 2 years for a community school model. Where do I start? So I'm very disillusioned from the get-go because we were organizing for a community school model. We did the work. We wanted to partner with Norfolk Public Schools because, as my coworker Keenan has said, he's doing the work for you guys. He's doing the community engagement. I applaud parents at Maury and Ghent. They have the resources and the time to come out to these meetings and be civically engaged. The families that we're working with are not. And so we're literally doing the legwork for you guys and collecting the data, and yet you still do not want to collaborate with us. We've been branded a political organization. We're political because we encourage families to come out here and participate in this civic process. That somehow deems us a political organization. So our work is being discredited at the city level. On top of that, I find it appalling that children as young as 6 or 7 years old are having to sit outside unattended, not being allowed in the school building at J. Cox Elementary. I invite all of you all to look at the sex offender registry around that school building and tell me if you would feel comfortable letting your child sit outside unattended routinely every day. I surely wouldn't. I also was lucky enough to participate in an aftercare program, and I think it was foundational to my academic development as a child. I'm disappointed in the ways the EELC program has co-opted what we organized so hard for to get that program in the budget and for y'all to provide that funding to pilot the program. The whole point of the EELC program is you have children who are being set up as early as 6 or 7 years old, being put in IEP programs, not getting the individual attention they need in the classroom. The whole point was to give those kids more resources, and so it's great that other kids at JCOX have these opportunities to participate in these programs, but if you're excluding the kids who need it the most, then it's not working. We've already identified a potential partner. The Boys and Girls Club would like to participate in this program. We're asking for $600,000 in the budget to fund it. Again, we've done a lot of the work for y'all. We're just asking for your support. If you believe in the future of these children, if you want to see Norfolk become a more thriving city, education is one of the resources that we have, public education, to combat poverty, make the city safer. Please consider it. Thank you.
Tierra Lassiter.
Good evening, Norfolk School Board members. My name is Tiara Lassiter, and I am a longtime resident, student, and mother of a child currently attending Norfolk Public Schools. And so I would like to know, will Norfolk Public School Board allocate $600,000 to Jaycox School for before and after care accessible to all students? So coming from America's impoverished communities within this city, public housing, which is also known as low-income-based housing, project-based housing. A lot of the students that attend J. Cox Elementary School, as well as the feeder schools, Ruffner and Booker T. Washington High School, are coming from underpoverished, underserved communities where it is a lot of chaos, where it is a lot of violence, where it is a lot of crime. So when they go to school, unfortunately, school is their safe place. School is their safe haven. School is where they're eating. They are currently living in a food desert, and I'm sorry that our kids are not always privy to have all of the programs and resources that they have at Ghent Elementary or at Norview High School. The reality of it is our schools are lacking and our kids are hurting. We need this before and after care. And as a working mother, a single mother with not one but 2 degrees, working on the third, coming from public housing, pulling myself up from the bootstraps, it is not easy. And we need appropriate education for our kids. And I'm sorry that we don't live in the best of area codes, and we don't have houses, and we don't have the resources for private tutoring or whatever it is. We are depending on this board to help us with our kids. Why are they outside unattended with rapists and perverts? Like, let's be real. How much money does this board see? Why is there such a discrepancy in between these schools and these kids? These are little kids. And I see it all the time. All of the funding for Maury, none of the funding for Booker T, all of the funding for Ghent, none of the funding for J. Cox. This has got to stop, and it's been going on for decades. I have been watching it. I have been attending schools that are falling apart, that are filled with mold, lead, asbestos. And our teachers going above and beyond to make sure that we still get the education like everybody else with half of the resources, with less of the money. And we need to stop it. And I think it's time for the change now. I think it's time to do the right thing now. I think it's time to allocate the funds now, because our kids are dying now. When they don't have the education, they don't grow up to be successful. They become statistics and they die. And we go on like it's business as usual. And that is a shame. So if you have any humanity within your heart today, please open up this before and after care for J. Cox. They've had it before, we need it now, and we should have been had it. Thank you for your time.
Javon Bennett. Javon Bennett. Javon Bennett. Okay. Sean Somerville.
Good afternoon, board. First of all, I would like to know if I could give y'all a copy of this. Another one of our nurses couldn't make it tonight, but she did write a letter on behalf of us. So a little bit of history on me. My name is Sean Somerville. I am a wellness assistant at Little Creek Elementary. I've been in the nursing field since 1999, and I was a CNA. And then Centera sent me back to school to be a advanced, and then a wound care nurse and restorative. So right now, I'm a wellness assistant. And I'm just here for y'all to take into consideration of paying us a little bit more, or giving us full-time hours, or at least making us contract. I mean, because speaking for myself, all wellness assistants don't have their own clinic, but depending on your interview, you were given your own clinic. So I'm one of those that have her own clinic. Little Creek have 2 schools, and I have the smaller building. My nurse is in the other building. So although it says assistant, I man a building alone. And daily things I do is babies that fall, kiddos that fall, meds, daily meds that have to be given. Babies that need bottles, they have to take that time to feed, documentation, screening for vision and hearing. I don't assist in that, I do it. I was taught to do it. I man that clinic from when I get there on time into the evening, and we're granted 29 hours a week, but I can't walk out on a kid that need me to just fail because I'm at my hours. So I stay and do what I need to do, and then I leave. So I'm just asking the board to give us full-time. I mean, we're doing full-time things there. We're not just assisting, we're doing the work. And I have a good principal, Ms. Coughlin. I have a good charge nurse, Katie. And I have a lot of people that wrote letters, but we're essential. We're vital. We're vital. I know we started when COVID started, but that's over and we're still there. And we need benefits like they're giving everybody else because we're there. So I just ask y'all to consider us, take it into consideration to give us something that they're giving people that don't even work 29 hours a week. So I'm Sean Somerville, and I stand in the proxy for other wellness assistants and part-time nurses. Thank y'all.
Hey, Karen. And this next individual is Brittany. Okay, thank you. You want to
Hello.
pronounce your last name for us?
Zabinski. I don't know if you guys can hear me because I'm kind of short. Good evening. My name is Brittany Zabinski. I myself am a wellness assistant at Norview Middle School. Just last year, I worked for both Norview Middle School and Camp Allen Elementary School, assisting the nurses with any of their needs, covering any absences, or basically just running the clinic on my own because we had a nurse whose mother had passed away, and I was there covering for her the whole week that she was gone. You can call us your proxy nurses, basically. I have 15 years of experience in the medical field, working in urgent cares, chiropractic offices, and I also assisted in minor veterinary procedures and surgeries. I obtained my certification in medical billing and coding at TCC, where I also plan to get my nursing license as well. I always knew I wanted to work in this field. I just didn't know where I belonged. I had the pleasure of knowing one of your nurses, Charmaine Booker, who informed me of this position available. I'm a mother of 3 girls, and the hours of this position worked out great for their schedule and my schedule. But we don't take into consideration that signing up for a part-time job, when we don't work, we don't get paid. So snow days, holidays, no paycheck. And otherwise I'm grateful, very much so, for this position. The bills are not. Any missed paycheck that I have to try to make up somehow. So I'm just asking that you, I'm not demanding for full-time, I'm just, what she said, taking into consideration the full-time position or the bonuses or anything would help. This job is one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, the pleasure of working for. The position checked all the boxes as a happy employee. Working for NPS has made me realize what I want to do and career-wise instead of dabbling in different medical areas. I want to work here for Norfolk Public Schools, that's all. Thank you.
Elena Daria.
Good evening. My name is Elena Daria. I live in Gowrie Park. I am a commissioner with the Bicycle Pedestrian Active Transportation Commission. I'm also the wife of a Norfolk Public Schools educator and a Norfolk Public Schools graduate. I would like to first congratulate Ms. Alfreda Thomas and Mr. Jason Inge on being appointed to council in the area that I live. I appreciate you all. Part of the multimodal plan is Vision Zero, which clearly highlights its commitments to pedestrian and bicycle safety. As an avid pedestrian, I walk my dog every morning, and I walk at least 10 miles a week for personal fitness. I am a witness to some of the reasons we average six pedestrians or bicycle fatalities a year. We will never retrain adults to cross the street safely. We can, however, educate our children who are the future adults of Norfolk. 2 programs that can assist in this education are the Portsmouth Safety Town, a nonprofit that partners with Portsmouth Public Schools to educate kindergarten through 2nd graders on the safety of walking, bicycling, guns, and stranger danger. The latter 2 programs were chosen because they have effectively reduced bike and ped accidents by 4% in the city of Norfolk. Field trips to that would be very well for our children. The second is safe routes to school. Funding was lost and the application was not completed due to an inability to secure matching funds, as we were told at our 2023 August BPAT meeting. To prevent this from happening again, we hope that NPS School Board will support this essential program, which is a national program and is mentioned in the city's Vision Zero strategy when considering your 25-26 school year budget. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this concludes our speakers for this evening, and the total was 15.
Thank you. This concludes our public hearing to receive comments on the proposed budget. And now we will have a vote on agenda item 4.0, resolution creating the Educational Facilities Planning Steering Committee as a special advisory committee to the board pursuant to policy BCE, School Board Committees. Board members had the opportunity to review the resolution. Can I get a motion to accept the resolution?
Madam Chair, we're done with the public hearing. Are we going into closed
There's
session?
a mistake. I just said the wrong thing. 5.0. Oh, it's the I think we are out of order here. We were supposed to discuss the resolution before going into closed executive session.
You're voting on the resolution.
Are we at 3.02?
Yes.
Motion.
That's the motion to go into closed session.
I thought we were discussing the resolution.
You're doing a resolution first and then going in. Isn't
It
that what we're
is.
supposed to do, Jack?
It's 4.01. It's not, if you look up here, it's at 4.01 on our printed
resolution.
copies.
You're supposed to vote on that first and then you go on your closed
The
session.
resolution would have to be
First.
passed in order
To go into executive
So it has to be this. Oh, this is different. That must be the old version.
I think after the
Revised
motion,
version.
at its second, Mr. Inch has some questions
Yeah.
before the vote. Am I right?
Yeah, we're following.
Correct.
This one here, that must have been the old.
Madam
version.
Chair.
You're following this. It's a revised version.
Before we move on off the public hearing, it may be that there are a couple speakers that may have been signed up that didn't.
Well, just
get-
that one that I called,
Oh,
Javon,
okay.
that did not
I
answer.
just- It was one of us, a student.
Did you just get here?
I did, yes.
It's up to you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I got here. This is
Oh, he was here.
I called your name. I called your name. Yes. Your name is Javon?
No, it's your name, Sproul.
I didn't have you signed up. You're not on here.
So was there the paper, because I had emailed you last week.
I don't have you, sir. And if that was the case, I didn't have you here. I didn't-
Madam Chair?
Yes.
But it's up to you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I don't know if it need to make a motion or not, but I definitely would love to hear from our MPS student on what they need to say.
I see no issue with hearing from the student.
All right.
And what's his name? Okay.
Are you going to put the timer back up?
And I'll wait till y'all get the time, okay?
Yeah, hold on just one moment.
Yes,
sir,
ma'am.
as we transition. Okay.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Inge, for that. Once again, my name is Tremaine Sproul. I'm a proud junior at Booker T. Washington High School. So I hope that you all have had the chance to go over the complaint letters that I gave last week. And as I was saying last meeting, it has been now 287 days since Mr. Ziegler has been removed. And in that time, you all have proposed multi-million-dollar budgets. You've launched new initiatives and made major decisions that will shape our district's future. And yet our choir, our entire program, has been left to crumble. And that is unacceptable. My intention and my anger isn't just for our choir director. It's about the ongoing neglect of the arts at Booker T. Washington High School. We are the Visual and Performing Arts Academy, the only one in Norfolk. The Visual and Performing Arts Academy lacks funding, we lack resources and recognition mainly. Meanwhile, sports continue to be prioritized, celebrated, and fully supported. And while I have nothing against athletics, it hurts to see student artists constantly overlooked time after time. When our choir students made it into District 2 All-State Choir and even the District 2 State Choir, we received no acknowledgement from MPS, even from students at Granby High School, Maury High School, or even Norview High School. But when a sports team wins a game, it makes headline 5 minutes after the game. Why is our success not treated as more important? And if anyone else here believes that what I'm saying is false, or you just don't believe me at all, I invite you to visit Booker T. Washington High School, which you all have not done in a very long time. Watch the struggle the students have endured, our choir students. See what 287 days of neglect has done to us. No one has checked on us. No one has seen the damage firsthand. All we need is a meeting with one of you to discuss what, when, and how we will restore our choir and its success. If this district truly upholds equity and excellence no matter what, then prove it. Interest in the arts. Invest in the arts. Recognize our achievements, restore the integrity of our programs, and ensure that what happened to our choir will never happen again. Thank you.
This concludes our public comments. Yes. On the proposed budget. All right.
And you're back on the resolution.
And we're back on the resolution. Agenda item 4.0. I'm sorry that you did not receive updated agendas, but the online agenda is updated. Board members have had the opportunity to review the resolution. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'd make a motion to approve it.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Mr. Inge has brought forth the motion, and Ms. Tiffany Moore Buffalo has seconded the motion.
Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion prior to the vote?
Yes. For clarity, what are we discussing? I talked to Mr. Cloud before the break, but we are. I haven't. That what I printed did not have a subject matter on it. So so everybody else is clear on what we're talking about.
It is, the resolution is in the agenda for this evening.
On board docs, when I go to 4.02, there is no attachment.
There's 4.01.
01. That's why I didn't, okay. Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Dr. Martin.
As I stated in an email previously today, I sent to the school board members, I believe that this is we need to let the administration manage the facilities committee, and by us interfering and going below board, it's showing that we don't trust our administration to do the work that we have hired them to do, and it will only prolong the process. So I will be voting no.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Mr. Inge, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do have some questions. Give me one moment while I get everything pulled up. So just for clarification, what we are voting on is for the 2025 steering committee recommendations. This one.
we are voting on whether or not we would like to make that a board committee or leave it as a Norfolk Public School committee.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Wonderful. All right. All right. And so give me 1 second. My board docs is running a little slow. All right. All right. So what's the difference between council, maybe? What's the difference between the advisory board and administrative board? Because I want to understand point 3, it says the superintendent is still directed to do all things necessary to assist the committee. So the superintendent will still be doing her job and assisting the committee on the citizens providing or advising the school board on recommendations for closure and consolidation. Is that correct?
The committee that the superintendent formed was to advise her about the board.
Got it.
The board, and I wasn't involved in this, so
Okay.
I don't know where it all came from, but my understanding is the board wishes to review and potentially appoint the members of the committee.
Got it.
The board does not appoint the members of the superintendent's advisory.
Of course.
She's an employee of the board.
She is.
So the real, coming out of the last session we had, and with the objection to go into closed session, the essential point is to allow the board, which under the Freedom of Information Act can go into closed session to discuss qualifications, persons it is appointing to its committee, to allow the board to do that. The board cannot go into closed session to discuss the qualifications of persons that an employee of the board is going to appoint to a committee that employee formed.
Okay, got it. All right, and so the people that were currently on the steering committee were appointed?
There's no one on the committee, as I understand it. No one has been appointed yet.
Okay, so the recommendations were just
It was a
there.
proposed membership list.
I'm so sorry?
It was a proposed membership.
Proposed membership list. Where do we get the people from?
Through an application process.
I would like Dr. White to address this.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Yes, Mr. Hinge, we worked with David Sturts with the Woolpert Group.
Okay.
And what we did was to contract with his consultants to handle this process. And we started in September planning for marketing and outreach to ask community members, teachers, staff, all Norfolk stakeholders to apply to be on the board.
Okay.
So we actually sent out robocalls, we posted it on the website, we sent it out through social media, and we had 99 individuals to apply for to be on the board. So what we did, we took the applications, set them up by wards, and we sent all of that information to Woolpert Consulting Firm, and they developed the rubric, they developed the application, and they made the recommendations for the steering committee. And on the committee, they recommended 30 individuals, and every ward is represented from those who applied. We have staff members that were recommended, community members, parents, pastors. It's a very diverse group.
Well, okay, thank you so much for that. Well, I don't know if they're a doctor, lawyer, teacher, pastor. I haven't seen any of the applications. I'm a board member. I don't know if they've been presented to any of my other board colleagues, but I haven't seen any of them. So why
we haven't seen the applications either. They were all sent to Woolpert groups. But I was asked to do some data analysis on the feedback, looking at the percentage per ward. Were they parents, guardians, community members, faith-based partners, teachers, administrators, and that was the reason I was able to give you that information.
Got it. Okay, understandable. So this is a consultant firm that we are paying. The school board. We're paying, and they are providing recommendations on people that should be on on the steering committee.
They used a rubric.
I understand they
Okay.
use a rubric, but they are providing the recommendations on these people.
Yes.
Okay, got
Yes,
it.
yes.
Okay.
We wanted to be transparent. We just wanted to offer it to anyone who wanted to apply, but to go with a professional consulting firm to actually select the individuals.
Okay. Well, I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second.
yeah, you're fine.
I understand you use the word transparency. I say that is, I see the list, in full transparency. I know some people, but I don't know all the people. And as a school board member, we should know some of those people on there. And the superintendent should have shared this with us, or the consultant firm should have shared with us the applications of every single member. Give me 1 second, Dr. White.
Okay.
They should have shared that with us in full transparency, so that we would be here where we are today. So I will be voting yes, that this is something that the school board handles to ensure that it's full transparency, ensure that if we are to appoint people from the community, it is a fair and equal and equitable representation of citizens, because these are the people who will advise and provide information on the recommendations of the schools and consolidations of their schools and their neighborhoods and our cities and our communities. And I want to ensure that the people are the ones that are making the decisions and providing assistance. I understand the superintendent here in point 3, that the superintendent is directed to do all things necessary to assist this committee in its work on behalf of the school board. Mr. Jack, does that mean that as a school board, we can instruct the superintendent to do something since she's our employee?
You could, the point of that was, and that's fairly typical language in something like this or an ordinance, is just to, because you, the board, can't manage this. Somebody's going to have to notify the public of their meetings, things like that. So the administration would direct the clerk, and they might need secretarial help at time. If they're going to do a written report, they might need assistance of that. So the idea was just in terms of whatever their administrative work is necessary, they can rely on the superintendent and your administration to assist them.
Got it.
And that's kind of boilerplate language.
Okay, so the superintendent will still act in the administrative capacity
Correct.
on this,
She will help
but
the committee to advise, in their work advising. You asked me.
got it. But this school board that was elected and appointed by the citizens will have oversight of the advisory committee. Is that correct?
It's an advisory committee to the board.
To the board.
You appoint the members, and they report to you ultimately.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Go ahead, Dr. White.
I don't know if you can recall, but at the last meeting, we had David Sturts prepared to present this information, because if I look at my timeline, the next step was to bring this information to the board.
Okay.
And he wasn't able to present, but we were going to bring this information to the board. We weren't, keeping it from you. We just had everything in order, and then it was time to present it to the board for your feedback and input.
Go ahead. Continue.
Okay.
Are you done, Mr. Aaron?
No, I'm not done yet. I just have one more thing. Okay, so you said y'all were going to bring this to us, correct?
Yeah, it was on the agenda. Mr. Fraley, could you come up, please? Because I know we had David Sturts on standby.
And what
and then I believe there was a motion made.
Okay.
And we couldn't go through with the presentation.
Yes, Dr. White's referring to the fact that, as I understand it, the superintendent, the administration had made arrangements so that if you had gone into closed session, he was going to participate from wherever he is. I think he's in Ohio. Via Zoom. But since, because of the legal issues that were raised, you didn't have the closed session, he was on standby, but just didn't do it.
Got it, okay, I understand.
Good evening. So 2 years ago, when David Sturts presented the information for our seat capacity versus our actual enrollment, he presented to this board his plan on how he would go about evolving recommendations to move forward. He told this board that he was going to have professionals come and deliver data. He told this board he was going to give them the best committee that we've ever had, It's on board. I mean, it was recorded.
Okay.
And so this was all part of that process.
Okay.
And so it has been transparent prior to you, joining our board.
Of course.
And everyone knew about it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I did want to remind you that it was on the agenda last
So
meeting.
it would have been on the agenda for us to look over all the applicants and
For
understand that.
the whole discussion and looking at, giving everything to you, yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. So, yeah, okay. I'm good with my questions. I will let my colleague, Ms. Basine.
And Ms. Facine and then Mr. Paulson.
I'll defer to Mr. Paulson if you could come back to me.
Thank you. It's difficult for me to understand why the board, when it's facing things like the budget, the Maury project, policy review, and other serious matters, that we want to take on another task. We want to take and oversee this board, and we will eventually have to sit in a session and decide who's going to be on there. When it's already been determined, it's already on pace, it's already moving. Now we're going to stop it, and we're going to take it, and then when are we going to get to it? When are we going to make it move forward? That's one of my concerns. But we should leave it in place as it is and move forward and let the superintendent handle it. We get updates, we can schedule them and say we will get an update whenever. But for us to do as we're looking like we're going to go, hopefully we won't, we will leave it where it is, and I'm not in support of this resolution that's coming up, and I yield the floor.
Yeah, so this committee is an educational and facilities planning steering committee. It is not going to be just focused on facilities, correct, Mr. Fraley, right? What we've been doing around educational planning and...
The committee was formulated to advance the review of portfolio reduction and the way we align schools.
Correct, but with our school board goals at the center of it and educational planning specs being at the center, building off of those goals, right? So that's where, and Woolport did say at our meeting, that they are not in the community. And so I guess the concern that I have is the individual, how they, and I did in full transparency to the board, and I know most of you are new, I had asked this question in November of what the selection process was going to be, what the rubric was going to be, and to which it was shared that it was going to be as our school board advisory committees are selected. And I did share that following our meeting, or during our meeting, last meeting, I did share that with you all, board colleagues, at the last meeting. So my expectation was that we would get recommendations from the administration like we do with our advisory committees, but where we get all of the applicants. We have provided all of the applications. We have a spreadsheet that indicates who the individuals are, what affiliation they have with Norfolk Public Schools. Are they a parent? Are they an employee? Are they a community member or industry professional? And we go about it that way. So that was my expectation around this based on what the information the administration had shared with me at that time. So I'm confused about what and where and when it has, I guess, became an issue where Woolpert is determining this. And even though I heard him say that at the meeting, I did raise that question at that time, but like where we are moving forward, I think as representatives of the community, which the board is, we represent the vision and values of the community. Who better than us to review the citizens that are going to be impacted by the decisions we make? So that's kind of where my position lies.
If I could add that Mr. Sturts hired a local company here to vet those applications and make recommendations, because he too felt, he lives in Ohio.
That's right, the
He felt
Right.
that he needed somebody a little closer to home that was vested in the community, so he hired them to assist him in identifying those individuals. And they did use a rubric.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Paulson.
Again, I have to reiterate that we are not in a position with what we're facing to take this on. We seem to be in a hurry, and the biggest concern I have is that if we become selecting everybody, we politicalize the process, and that is not a good way for us to do business. And we are really behind in our business, and we need to become better at it. I yield the floor.
I'd like to make a comment.
Adele had her hand up.
I know, but I guess I'll put my hand up after Adele. Dr. Martin.
Yeah, so many times in the 6.5 years that I've been on this board, we've really griped a lot about, I'm not going to say complain, but about how we don't have people stepping up to join our committees. It's always the same people, the same pool of people. And so I agree with having our consultant who, obviously took the extra mile to reach out to a local company to help in making sure that we had a good cross-section of people across the city, and that we're not still pulling on the same people. So I'm really happy to hear that happened. I like the local touch, and I am not in support of us meddling in who is on this committee. It's way too important.
If I could add one more comment, I called the gentleman that held my seat before I was promoted to this position, Mr. John Hazlett. He said the original committee was not appointed by the board, that he organized the original committee.
Okay, I'm just saying we have that comment about all the committees that we try to put together. It's always the same people.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment. As I see this committee as one of the most consequential for the school system, as we are looking to them to make suggestions on consolidations and closures and further educational planning. We are the representatives of this city on this school board, and I think that we need to make sure that this committee is selected correctly. And I think that the oversight that we might provide is invaluable. We were elected to these positions. This is an incredibly consequential committee, and I am going to vote in favor of this resolution. Are there any other comments, sir? Mr. Paulson.
I think I'll yield to my colleague. I believe he was up first.
Chairwoman, thank you so much for your words. We have seen historically in the past with Norfolk Public Schools and the trust between the community and Norfolk Public Schools. We now have a new board. We have a few people. Adele, thank you so much for still being around. But we have a new board, and Tanya, and Tanya. But this is an opportunity for us to get it right, for us to rebuild that trust with our community, and let this be a community-focused, community-led process, because eventually, our school's enrollment is declining. We will have to make the decision. Us, the school board, will have to make the final decision on closing schools. But it should be up to the citizens, those that we appoint. It is not politicized because we are all nonpartisan. So they are putting in an application. And so I believe that the citizens should have that say in advising us, the school board, on who and what schools should be closed. At the end of the day, that's where I stand on the issue. I know our colleagues may differ, but I just want the citizens to know, because I'm the new guy. but I want to make it very clear. It's all about accountability, transparency, and openness with me.
Dr. Martin.
The people that are being selected by our consultant are citizens.
Yes.
And we're very transparent. So I'm not sure that I'm following your reasoning on how these citizens are different than any other citizens. I think that it's great that we're actually including a more diverse group of citizens than what as I previously said, than what we normally have in our committees. Again, we have a lot of wonderful people who step up over and over again, but we do need more diverse selection. And if we're picking them, there is an innate bias in that process. So that's why I am definitely in favor of the process that the administration took.
Understandable. One less follow-up, and then I'll be good to go. Hopefully I can make it make sense for you on where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Once again, I have not seen the full list of this. I've seen the people. I have not seen the application. I don't know these people. I understand you have it, but it won't give it to us at the beginning of the process. So in transparency, I'm still going to be voting yes, that this needs to be something that the community does. That's it. That's what I stand on. Let's move forward.
Either way, they're doing it.
Well,
I think I'll free Ms. Thomas.
Ms. Thomas.
At this time, I'm feeling the same way Mr. Paulson and Dr. Martin is feeling. We don't have the time to take on anything else. We really have not done much as a new board. And I just feel like this is just going to be something that's going to put us further behind. I have faith in the superintendent and her directors that they would do what they need to do. We have to give them a chance. I feel like we have more important work that we need to focus on. That's just my opinion.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Moore Buffalo, we have not heard from you. Would you like to make any remarks before we go to a vote?
Not too many remarks. I'll be supporting the resolution.
Mr. Paulson.
I'm sorry, did you recognize him?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Thank you. What we're haggling over here, if you will, is the difference of who's going to be overseeing the board. And we will see it from one position. Now we think that the superintendent who started it, it's her initiative, it was in the school system, if you will, and we took it away. She should still be, she started it, let her finish it. But we took it away by taking, it was a day-to-day operation at that time, and that now it becomes questionable whether we are interfering, in my mind, that we're interfering with the day-to-day operation by taking this control of this. Also, we will, whether the superintendent's in charge or we're in charge, the superintendent's in there, but we're in a different role. It should be left where it started. I yield the floor.
Let's call the vote.
Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Yes. Basine? Aye. Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Nay.
Polson?
Nay.
Thomas?
Nay.
DeCalagero?
Aye. Motion is approved. The school board will now go into a closed executive session. Ms. Tanner, please read the motion.
Move that the members of the school board of the city of Norfolk go into a closed meeting for the purposes which are set out in subsection A of section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act, The subjects of this portion of the session are the discussion of candidates for possible appointment to the school board's Educational Facilities Planning Steering Committee. B, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A8 of the Act. The subject of this portion of the closed session is for legal advice in connection the matter set above in subsection A of this motion. Basine?
Aye. Could I just add, maybe I missed it, was there a motion and a second?
Yeah, it was Inge and Buffalo.
I just want to be sure on the motion going.
Yeah, we
Inge
just
and
talked
Buffalo.
for a long period of time.
Yeah, they just had discussion. Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye.
And I will escort you to
Get a motion, please, to come out of closed executive session.
I move that we come out of executive closed session.
A second. So, Ms. Tiffany Moore Buffalo has brought forth the motion, and Ms. Basine has seconded the motion. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Ms. Tanner, for the record, Dr. Martin had to leave the closed session, and that's why she can't participate and certify that the meeting was proper. She left at 8:04 p.m.
Okay. A resolution certifying the executive meeting of the School Board of the City of Norfolk in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas the School Board of the City of Norfolk has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the School Board of the City of Norfolk that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be resolved that the School Board of the City of Norfolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the School Board of the City of Norfolk. Basine?
Aye.
Buffalo?
Aye.
Inge?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye. Thank you for all coming this evening, and the meeting is now adjourned.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.
You too.